Bonjour, distingués délégués, distingués représentants, je vous souhaite la bienvenue. Je déclare l'ouverture de la 3e séance plénière. Nous allons poursuivre l'examen du point 7 de l'ordre du jour, intitulé Débat général. Sera ce matin et cet après-midi. Conformément à l'article 50 du règlement intérieur de l'Assemblée des États, les États sont invités à prononcer des déclarations d'une durée maximale de 5 minutes. Afin d'aider les orateurs à respecter le temps imparti pour la présentation de leurs déclarations, un dispositif lumineux a été installé à la tribune. Ces délais devraient être strictement respectés afin de permettre à tous les orateurs inscrits de s'exprimer. Je souhaite également informer les délégations que les déclarations écrites ou pré-registrées soumises en remplacement d'intervention en personne à compter d'hier ont été publiées sur la page web correspondante de l'Assemblée. J'ai pris la délégation de vérifier la liste des orateurs en date de 2 décembre 2025 à 8 heures, disponible au bureau de l'agent de conférence. Plusieurs modifications y ayant été apportées. Nous allons donner immédiatement la parole au premier orateur. Et j'ai un grand honneur de donner la parole à Son Excellence, Madame Henryka Mościcka-Dendes, la vice-ministre des Affaires étrangères de la Pologne. Vous avez la parole, Madame la vice-ministre.
Merci, Madame. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Let me start by saying that Poland aligns itself with the statement presented on behalf of the EU and its member states, but we would also wish to add our own national comments. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin by expressing on behalf of Poland our deep appreciation to the judges, prosecutors and the staff of the ICC for their tireless and dedicated work throughout the past year. Your commitment to justice, often carried out under immense pressure and in complex operational conditions, embodies the principles that inspired the Rome Statute. Poland pays tribute to your service and acknowledges the heavy burdens you shoulder in pursuit of accountability and the rule of law. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to thank the Presidency of the Assembly of State Parties, the members of the Bureau, the Secretariat, for their hard work during this difficult period. Poland's engagement in strengthening the international criminal justice system is not just a matter of policy. It is rooted in our historic experience. As a nation that endured aggression, mass atrocities, and systematic violations of human dignity in the past, we understand the value of a permanent, independent, and effective tribunal such as the ICC. Our past compels us to seek a future in which perpetrators of the gravest crimes are held to account, no matter who committed them or were. For this reason, Poland strongly condemns all outside pressure, threats, and attacks directed at the ICC and its elected officials. Cyber attacks, politically motivated sanctions, intimidations, and other attempts to undermine the court independence are unacceptable. They strike not only at the institution, but also at our global commitment to the rule of law. Poland stands firmly with the ICC and pledges to sustain its ability to carry out its mandate free from interference in the full autonomy and dignity befitting an international court of law. At the same time, Poland is closely following the ongoing examination of alleged sexual harassment and misconduct involving the prosecutor. We expect, and indeed we demand, clarification of the matter and appropriate and proportionate action on the finding of the Office of Internal Oversight Services. Integrity and public trust are fundamental to the court's legitimacy. The office of the prosecutor must be above suspicion to continue its essential work. And that work is vast, as we all agree. In Ukraine, Palestine, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sudan, and in many other countries, the office of the prosecutor has assumed enormous responsibilities. Poland especially wishes to highlight investigations aimed at ensuring accountability for crimes committed in Ukraine, a country to whom we, Poland, share a border. The suffering inflicted on the Ukrainian people and the grave crimes documented there underscore the need for a strong and effective ICC. Madam President, clearly the court cannot fulfill its mandate without cooperation. I therefore call on all states to fulfill or to fully support the ICC in accordance with their obligations under the Rome Statute. The international criminal justice system is only as strong as the resolve of states to uphold it. Likewise, Poland reiterates its steadfast support for the universality of the Rome Statute. A truly global court requires a truly global membership. We welcome Ukraine's decision to join the statute as an act of courage and an act of conviction, particularly when it faces aggression on its own territory. At the same time, we regret the decision of certain states to withdraw from the statute, as every departure weakens the shared promise not to tolerate impunity for atrocity crimes. We urge all states to uphold rather than undermine this essential pillar of the international legal order. With this in mind, Poland welcomes the results of the July special session in New York to review the Kampala amendments on the crime of aggression. Although the session did not produce an immediate breakthrough, it demonstrated the unity of state parties, and it gives hope that the issue of harmonizing jurisdiction over the crime of aggression will be taken up again in 4 years' time and ultimately resolved. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me address the vital question of financing. In an era of growing caseload, increasing global tensions and emerging threats, including the chilling effect of sanctions targeting institutions of international justice, it is essential for the ICC to have a budget that enables it to function effectively. Underfunding compromises the court's ability to deliver justice and the credibility of our own collective commitment. Poland hopes the Assembly will secure sufficient funding for 2026 and stands ready to contribute. It has become common practice for some countries, including Poland, to pay their contributions ahead of schedule, and we will do so again this year. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Rome Statute system rests on our shared belief that justice is not optional, but a necessity, both to safeguard peace and fulfill our moral obligation to victims everywhere. Poland reaffirms its unwavering support for the ICC and its mission. Let us work together to strengthen the court, guard its independence, and ensure the promise of accountability remains a reality for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madame Deputy Foreign Minister and dear friend. Maintenant, je donne la parole à son Excellence Madame Fatou Gaye, ambassadeur, directrice du cabinet du ministre de l'Intégration africaine des Affaires étrangères et des Sénégalais de l'extérieur du Sénégal. Vous avez la parole, chers collègues. C'est un plaisir de vous retrouver ici à La Haye.
Madame la vice-présidente, chers collègues, il y a 2 ans, nous nous sommes réunis lors d'une session spéciale à New York, le 17 juillet 2023, pour célébrer le 125e anniversaire de l'adoption du statut de Rome, acte fondateur de la Cour pénale internationale, aujourd'hui forte de 225 États membres. Cet événement rappelait que la CPI demeure un instrument indispensable face aux atrocités contemporaines et un pilier essentiel de la lutte contre l'impunité. Aujourd'hui, les violations graves du droit international dans plusieurs États du monde, y compris à Gaza, et les difficultés de la communauté internationale à y mettre fin, continuent encore de heurter les consciences. Elle nous rappelle également un des engagements fondateurs du système de justice pénale internationale initié lors de la mise en place des tribunaux de Nuremberg. Le Sénégal exprime sa solidarité envers toutes les communautés affectées et salue le rôle crucial du Fonds au profit des victimes ainsi que les efforts du greffe pour maintenir un dialogue étroit avec elles. Par ailleurs, ma délégation condamne fermement les sanctions, menaces et intimidations visant la Cour, ses responsables et son personnel. Pour le Sénégal, toute tentative de fragilisation de la CPI constitue une atteinte directe au principe universel de l'indépendance de la justice. Le Sénégal se joint aux appels répétés à la levée de ces mesures et à la cessation de toute attaque ou restriction afin de préserver la capacité de la Cour à assumer en toute indépendance et intégrité les responsabilités qui lui incombent. Premier État à avoir ratifié le statut de Rome, le Sénégal réaffirme ici son attachement profond à la Cour pénale internationale. En ces temps périlleux, cet attachement commun ne saurait se limiter à une déclaration de principe. Il doit se traduire par des mesures concrètes et concertées pour renforcer une institution qui doit demeurer, face aux atrocités contemporaines, un rempart de l'humanité contre l'impunité. C'est pourquoi ma délégation souligne la pertinence du thème de ce débat général qui nous offre l'opportunité d'échanger sur les voies et moyens de renforcer la résilience de la Cour. Le Sénégal soutient les efforts diplomatiques, financiers, logistiques, communicationnels qui pourraient être entrepris tant au plan national que collectif pour améliorer la résilience opérationnelle et institutionnelle de la Cour. À cet égard, je voudrais rappeler les trois dimensions fondamentales de cette résilience: l'universalité, la coopération et la complémentarité. Mon pays engage les États parties à la Convention de Ljubljana, La Haye, qui renforce la coopération internationale en matière d'enquête et de poursuite du crime de génocide, des crimes de guerre et des crimes contre l'humanité. L'engagement du Sénégal en faveur de la Cour pénale internationale a été récemment illustré par la visite à Dakar de sa présidente et qui a permis au Sénégal de réaffirmer les liens solides qui le lient à la CPI, ainsi que notre volonté de promouvoir la coopération et de défendre l'indépendance judiciaire. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ma délégation tient à rappeler le caractère vital du Fonds au profit des victimes, véritable pilier de la légitimité de la Cour. En apportant une justice réparatrice concrète à des milliers de victimes, ce fonds contribue à restaurer la dignité, à renforcer la cohésion communautaire et promouvoir l'inclusion. Toutefois, face aux besoins croissants et aux défis de financement, il est urgent que les États parties accentuent leur contribution volontaire, y compris par le biais de l'aide publique au développement. Chaque contribution, même symbolique, envoie un message clair, celui de la solidarité envers les victimes et du soutien indéfectible à la mission de la CPI. À ces piliers s'ajoute un élément essentiel, le financement de la Cour. Il est évident que la CPI ne peut remplir son mandat sans ressources adéquates. Les contributions des États parties au budget de la Cour ne relèvent pas de l'obligation, mais d'une obligation juridique et politique. En effet, dans un contexte marqué par la multiplication des situations, il est impératif que chaque État honore pleinement ses engagements financiers. Dès lors, le Sénégal appelle à une solidarité accrue afin de garantir que la Cour dispose des moyens nécessaires pour mener ses activités avec efficacité et indépendance. Pour conclure, Madame la Vice-présidente, ma délégation voudrait indiquer que ce débat sur la résilience de la Cour n'est pas une discussion de confrontation, mais de co-construction et de dialogue. Il s'inscrit pleinement dans la tradition des efforts entrepris par la Cour et les États partis pour promouvoir auprès des États non partis, des organisations internationales et des acteurs non gouvernementaux une institution essentielle à la paix et à la sécurité internationale. Nous espérons que la poursuite de ces discussions permettra d'améliorer les conditions qui nous préoccupent tous et de renforcer l'engagement collectif autour de cette Cour afin qu'elle puisse lutter contre l'impunité de manière totale, globale et irréversible. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
Excellence, je vous remercie de votre déclaration. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Rebecca Netley, conseillère juridique et directrice générale Bureau du droit international Affaires mondiales du Canada. Excuse me, we don't hear you. I think you could push the button. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Je vais recommencer. Madame la Présidente, le Canada est honoré de s'adresser à cette Assemblée et de réaffirmer son engagement indéfectible envers la justice internationale et la Cour pénale internationale. La Cour témoigne de notre conviction collective qu'il ne peut y avoir de paix durable sans justice et que la responsabilisation est le fondement de la sécurité et de la stabilité. Elle assure que les crimes les plus graves ne restent pas impunis lorsque les juridictions nationales ne peuvent rendre justice et que les voix des victimes contribuent à la réconciliation. Le mandat de la Cour demeure aussi essentiel aujourd'hui que lors de l'adoption du statut de Rome. Pourtant, sa capacité à promouvoir la justice est de plus en plus mise à l'épreuve. Sanctions and arrest warrants against court officials, including one Canadian citizen, have profound impacts on targeted individuals and a discouraging effect on staff, civil society, and other stakeholders. Repeated cyber incidents have threatened critical systems and risked disrupting operations. These challenges do not exist in isolation. They reflect a broader erosion of the multilateral system, marked notably by growing unilateralism and disinformation. Defending the court's independence is therefore about more than protecting one institution. It is about safeguarding our entire rules-based international order and the principles that sustain it. This is a responsibility we all share. Canada's support for the court remains steadfast. We will continue to champion the independence of the court and defend its ability to fulfill its mandate. We call on all states to reject measures that weaken the international legal system. We support ongoing efforts to safeguard the court's operations and are committed to assisting those affected by measures targeting the court whenever possible. We are also committed to helping strengthen the court's capacity and expertise, including through secondments and contributions to the Trust Fund for Victims. Recently, we witnessed a withdrawal from the Rome Statute and announcements by other states of their intent to do so. We support constructive engagement, not isolation, as a path forward. Unity among states parties is essential. We also recognize the importance of engaging with both states parties and non-states parties while listening to civil society and victims who continue to place their trust in the court. Only by working together can we continue to advance towards universalization of the Rome Statute. Canada reaffirms its strong commitment to this goal and takes this opportunity to congratulate Ukraine as the newest member of the court. As an international court of last resort, the ICC depends on states' cooperation in its investigations and to enforce its decisions. We expect all states parties to adhere to their obligations under the Rome Statute and international law. Madam President, defending the court against internal pressures is not enough. As states parties, we must also strengthen its foundations from within. A resilient court governs itself with integrity and fiscal responsibility, operates efficiently, and fosters a climate or a culture of transparency and inclusivity. Canada commends the court's disciplined approach to its 2026 budget and its adoption of the one court principle, which promotes long-term sustainability and coherence. Looking ahead, we support ongoing efforts to reassess priorities, identify efficiencies, and align resources strategically. We also encourage continued progress on travel expenditures reform. Beyond prudent planning by the court, states must also meet their financial obligations. We welcome overdue reforms to assessing waiver requests under Article 112, Paragraph 8 of the statute, and we continue to urge the full and timely payment of assessed contributions by all states parties. The strength of any institution also lies in its people. A safe, respectful, and inclusive workplace is fundamental to the court's effectiveness. Canada remains concerned by the staff engagement survey results. Discrimination, harassment, sexual harassment, and abuse of authority must be taken seriously and addressed accordingly. We support merit-based, transparent recruitment and improvements to hiring practices, including short-term appointments. Progress in this area is a positive example of cross-regional collaboration to which Canada was honored to contribute this year. We also support reforms to strengthen and clarify processes addressing misconduct by elected officials. Transparency and timeliness are critical. While investigations must be thorough, grave allegations require prompt conclusion. The court's credibility depends on it. Madame la Présidente, tout cela étant dit, je ne saurais trop insister sur l'engagement du Canada à soutenir la Cour et son mandat. Cette année, nous avons eu le plaisir de contribuer en facilitant les discussions sur l'aide judiciaire et la résolution omnibus. Et nous comptons poursuivre la collaboration avec tous les États partis. Le Canada se tient fermement aux côtés de la Cour et demeure résolu dans la poursuite de la justice, de la responsabilité et de l'État de droit. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup pour votre intervention, Madame la Directrice Générale. Maintenant, je voudrais donner la parole à Madame Alicia Patricia Pérez Galena, conseillère juridique adjointe pour les traités et les instances internationales du ministère des Affaires étrangères du Mexique. Vous avez la parole, Madame la Directrice.
Muchas gracias, señora vicepresidenta. Distinguidos jueces, juezas, funcionarios y funcionarias de la Corte Penal Internacional, estimados y estimadas delegadas, representantes de la sociedad civil, México reafirma su apoyo inquebrantable a la Corte Penal Internacional y con el sistema del Estatuto de Roma como piedra angular de la justicia penal internacional y la lucha contra la impunidad, cuyo trabajo depende de su independencia judicial. Mi delegación desea formular los siguientes puntos. En primer lugar, celebramos los avances institucionales logrados este año, como lo son la conclusión de un examen preliminar, los procedimientos de reparación de Katanga y Almadi, la ejecución exitosa de 3 órdenes de arresto y la realización de programas en beneficio de las víctimas en Côte d'Ivoire, Kenia, República Democrática del Congo, Uganda y la República Centroafricana. Reconocemos los esfuerzos de la Corte para actuar como una sola institución, mediante una coordinación más estrecha entre sus órganos y una gestión estratégica orientada a resultados. Ello se demuestra en su propuesta de presupuesto para el año 2026. Estos son pasos concretos hacia una Corte más cohesionada, eficaz y humana. Igualmente, mi país reconoce la importante labor del Fondo Fiduciario en beneficio de las víctimas, cuyos programas de reparación y asistencia son una expresión tangible de justicia restaurativa. La reparación integral cristaliza la labor del sistema de justicia internacional. No solo sancionar, sino también sanar y transformar. México valora los esfuerzos del fondo para diversificar su financiamiento y fortalecer su sostenibilidad, a fin de ampliar su impacto en beneficio de las víctimas. Agradecemos a la mesa y a las delegaciones su compromiso y espíritu constructivo a lo largo del año. Al mismo tiempo, invitamos a continuar reflexionando sobre cómo hacer más eficientes nuestros procesos de trabajo, bajo la premisa de que menos es más, que la calidad del diálogo y de los resultados prevalezca sobre la cantidad de reuniones. En segundo lugar, queremos hacer referencia a la sesión especial sobre la revisión de las enmiendas relativas al crimen de agresión, celebrada el pasado julio en Nueva York. México esperaba mejores resultados de esta sesión, con miras a homologar este crimen con el resto de los crímenes del Estatuto. No obstante, la adopción de la resolución que da continuidad al proceso mediante un subgrupo dedicado a ello permite trabajar hacia una solución que permita hacer operante y relevante la jurisdicción de la Corte Penal para juzgar el crimen de agresión y cerrar las brechas de impunidad. México, en calidad de facilitador de este subgrupo de trabajo, hará todos sus esfuerzos para alcanzar este objetivo y agradecemos de antemano todo el apoyo y cooperación del resto de las delegaciones. Resulta fundamental que todos los estados parte refrendemos nuestro compromiso con la revisión de las enmiendas, participando activamente en la sesión especial de 2029 y la reunión intersesional de 2027, con miras a alcanzar resultados tangibles. Como lo señalamos recientemente en el debate sobre el informe de la Corte Penal Internacional en la 80ª Asamblea General de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas, la pregunta clave que debemos responder es si el Estatuto de Roma puede proteger a los estados parte frente a actos de agresión de cualquier otro estado, sea parte o no del Estatuto, tal y como sucede con los crímenes de guerra, genocidio o crímenes de lesa humanidad. En tercer lugar, valoramos las consultas públicas de la Fiscalía sobre políticas relativas a crímenes ambientales y crímenes facilitados por medios cibernéticos. México remitió observaciones sustantivas a ambos proyectos, subrayando que las políticas deben de fortalecer la implementación del Estatuto de Roma y los elementos de sus crímenes sin expandirlos indebidamente. Este diálogo técnico es una contribución tangible a investigaciones más eficaces. En cuarto lugar, México rechaza todo acto de amenaza, represalia o interferencia contra la Corte, su personal o quienes cooperan con ella, por ser inadmisibles y contrarios a la administración de justicia conforme al artículo 70 del Estatuto de Roma. Nos preocupa en particular el incremento de sanciones contra jueces y juezas, así como contra el fiscal y fiscales adjuntos. Dichas medidas coercitivas socavan el Estado de Derecho internacional. La independencia judicial y la integridad institucional no son prerrogativas, son garantías indispensables para que la Corte pueda cumplir su mandato con imparcialidad y eficacia. Señora Vicepresidenta, la pertenencia y permanencia en el sistema de la Corte no deben retroceder. Por el contrario, animamos a sumarse y permanecer en él, fortaleciendo la cooperación y la confianza recíproca. La justicia internacional no debe ser un ideal efímero, sino una tarea compartida. En tiempos en que se pone a prueba su vigencia, la Corte Penal Internacional debe seguir siendo un faro de esperanza y de razón jurídica que guía a la comunidad internacional hacia la rendición de cuentas de crímenes atroces, teniendo en el centro de su labor la defensa y respeto de la dignidad humana. La justicia penal internacional no le pertenece a unos cuantos, sino a toda la humanidad. Muchas gracias.
Je vous remercie de votre déclaration. And now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hiroshi Minami, the Ambassador of Japan to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. At the outset, Japan commends the dedication of the judges, prosecutors, and the staff of the court, who work to carry out its mandate to fight against impunity and to promote the rule of law. Japan welcomes the ICC's significant progress this year exemplified by the convictions of 2 defendants for war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Central African Republic. Amidst the increasingly severe environment surrounding the ICC, Japan reaffirms its commitment to supporting the ICC's activities and continuing our cooperation to enable the court to fulfill its essential role to fight against impunity and to promote the rule of law. With this spirit, Japan has nominated Mr. Yoshimitsu Yamauchi as the Japanese candidate for the election as judge of the ICC for the term from 2027 to 2036. Japan believes that Mr. Yamauchi is well qualified for this post with over 30 years of experience in criminal law and procedure. Japan would be most grateful for the valuable support of the other states parties for the candidature of Mr. Yamauchi. Madam Vice President, Japan believes the following 4 points are essential for its future development as a universal and effective court. Firstly, Japan places highest priority to ensuring the independence and security of the court so that it can fulfill its roles and functions. In this regard, we share the concerns over the serious difficulties faced by the court caused by the recent developments. Japan will continue to make every possible effort in order to enable the continued operation of the court. We reiterate the importance of the unity among state parties to overcome the challenging situations facing the ICC. Secondly, we believe it is crucial to enhance dialogue between the court and the state parties on legal issues such as the principle of complementarity and immunity, while respecting the court's independence. We also emphasize the importance of dialogue between state parties and non-state parties. These are essential in further enhancing effectiveness and universality of the court. Regular dialogue with key UN bodies in international law, particularly the ICJ and the ILC, on matters of mutual interest, will also be beneficial. Japan expects their positive contribution to the ICC's long-term development. Thirdly, the ICC needs to further promote the universality of the Rome Statute. For that purpose, outreach to non-state parties is indispensable. Japan will continue supporting the court's role and encouraging non-state parties, especially in the Asia-Pacific, to accede to the Rome Statute. In this context, allow me to highlight the MOUs signed between the ICC and several Japanese universities, thanks to the registry's efforts, as this helps to raise the awareness of the ICC's profile in Asia. Fourthly, as the largest contributor to the ICC's budget, Japan emphasized the importance of financial prudence and efficiency in resource management. We thank the CBF as a body of experts in administrative and budgetary matters for their valuable advice. That said, in view of the current challenges faced by the court, Japan intends to make efforts to fulfill our share of assessed contribution at the earliest opportunity. Japan also emphasized that achieving the court's credibility hinges on 2 crucial elements: the establishment of a sound working environment and workplace culture, and to review the internal rules and guidelines for all ICC staff, including its elected officials. Madam Vice President, Japan recognizes the importance of working alongside victims. The TFV is an essential pillar of the ICC's efforts in this regard, and we are committed to continue our voluntary contributions, supporting numerous survivors of sexual and gender-based violence related to grave crimes. As this support enters its 11th year, Japan is pleased to announce 31,000 euro contribution to the fund. Before concluding, Japan notes the Assembly of States Parties held a special session on the crime of aggression in July. We welcome that the resolution was adopted by consensus after intensive discussions. Japan remains committed to continuing these discussions, emphasizing that such engagements must contribute to the ICC's effectiveness and universality. I thank you very much, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Thank you for your intervention. And now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Fernando Simas Magalhães, the Ambassador of Brazil to the Kingdom of the Netherlands. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Thank you, Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Just over 2 months ago, we marked 25 years since Brazil signed the Rome Statute, which we ratified in June 2002, just before the International Criminal Court officially began its work. Brazil joined the Rome Statute and the ICC because we believe in justice and in international law, because we recognize the gravity of the crimes the statute addresses and the importance of a legal framework to prevent them and to hold perpetrators accountable. And because we believed and continue to believe that a permanent, multilateral, and independent court will deliver impartial and victim-centered justice. Madam President, let me say with pride that Brazil is part of this endeavor. We renew today our full commitment to the court. Yet, much remains to be done for the court to fully achieve the mission for which it was created. Brazil has constantly affirmed that the ICC must never allow selectivity nor politicization. Heinous crimes must be investigated regardless of the political profile or alliances of the perpetrators, or the ethnicity, religion, gender, or social status of the victims. No one is above the law. No victim should be denied justice. Any criticism of the court, Madam President, must be constructive and with a view at improving its mandate. There should be no place for threats or attacks against the court, its senior officials, or its staff. Please allow me to remark that Brazil has always been a consistent and active voice in condemning unilateral sanctions imposed outside the framework of international law. We could not have been more clear on expressing our strong repudiation of such a practice. Madam President, I cannot fail to highlight the importance of the ICC providing greater space within its ranks for representatives from Latin America and the Caribbean. Proportionally, the GRULAC is the regional group that has most acceded to the Rome Statute, yet we remain significantly underrepresented in the court. It's always worth also emphasizing that gender balance and geographical representation are principles that must always guide the administrative policies of the court. The Rome Statute currently gathers 125 state parties from all continents with diverse political, economic, and social realities. Brazil regrets that this number may suffer a slight decrease in 2026, and we remain committed to encouraging more countries to join the ICC. The court must also always take into account the distinct realities of its states parties. If we wish to advance the universality of the ICC, we cannot lose sight of the importance of the court continually seeking economies and management efficiency so that all state parties can meet their budgetary obligations to the court. Madam President, on behalf of the Brazilian government, I reaffirm our condemnation of any threats or attacks against the court. No state should try to interfere in the court or undermine its work. The independence and the impartiality of the court must be always safeguarded. To the senior officials directly affected and to all staff impacted indirectly by such threats and sanctions, I would like to convey our strong support and solidarity. Distinguished officials, the Court's mandate is proving increasingly vital at a time when peace remains elusive and when genocide, the gravest of crimes, is unfolding. Brazil renews and reaffirms its commitment to the Rome Statute and to safeguarding the institutional integrity of the Court. This is the commitment that all nations dedicated to international law and justice should uphold. Madam President, I could not conclude without expressing my appreciation for the efforts Her Excellency Ambassador Pavio Kakuranta has undertaken, together with the Presidency, with yourself, and the Registry of the Court, to help us navigate this challenging period for the Court. I am convinced that united, the state parties will be able to safeguard the ICC, and the Court will emerge from this turbulent phase even stronger. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your intervention, and thank you for the kind words addressed to the Presidency. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Tanja von Uslar-Gleichen, a legal advisor and Director General for Legal Affairs of the Federal Foreign Office of Germany. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties on behalf of the Federal Republic of Germany. Germany fully aligns itself with the statement made by the European Union. Please allow me to also address some points in a national capacity. At the outset, Germany wishes to commend you, Madam Vice President, for your leadership and your entire team for the excellent preparation of this ASP, as well as the July special session in New York. 80 years ago, in November 1945, the Nuremberg trials gave rise to the modern concept of international criminal law, underpinned by a set of core principles. In 1950, the International Law Commission, tasked by the General Assembly, formulated 7 so-called Nuremberg principles. These include the criminalization of aggressive war and individual criminal responsibility under international law. 80 years on, the ICC and the post-war international legal order are facing a most critical phase in their history. We are witnessing seismic shifts in geopolitics. All this potentially has tremendous repercussions for the Court. 8 decades after Nuremberg, we as state parties of the ICC need to work to preserve what has been accomplished. The objective is to safeguard and build upon the essential core principles of international criminal law. We need to do our utmost to preserve the independence of the Court and to ensure that it continues to be able to exercise its jurisdiction. We believe that amongst the measures we need to take is to commence a dialogue amongst each other and also with non-states parties on how we can strengthen the Court. Our aim must be to ensure that the ICC can continue to fulfill its functions under the current circumstances and in the current geopolitical environment. We need to protect the independence and impartiality of the Court, as well as its invaluable contribution to accountability and the fight against impunity. We need to build its resilience so it may withstand pressure, cyber attacks, and generally a future world potentially more archaic than was envisaged in 1998. Germany has no doubt that the ICC is needed as never before in this volatile era. Allow me to recall that the ASP special session in July committed itself by consensus to the aim of strengthening the jurisdiction of the Court over the crime of aggression. The special session proved that state parties can join together in challenging crimes and attain progress on complex issues. We need to do this again. Upholding the international legal order and the ICC depends on our unity, but it also depends on very concrete steps of support and cooperation by state parties. It depends on the work of the Court and the way it handles external and internal challenges. In this light, Germany commends those state parties who have already put forward candidates for judgeship to be filled in 2026. What used to require competence, legal expertise, dedication, and a profound sense of justice and accountability now also requires courage and a willingness to possibly accept personal hardship. This willingness of current and future judges of the ICC and ICC personnel deserves our highest respect. We commend many state parties for having paid contributions early in the year as to increase financial resilience, and who will do this again next year. We recall the recent convictions in the Darfur situation, delivering justice to some of the many victims of Darfur. Madam Vice President, Germany is closely cooperating with the court. In fact, we surrendered a suspect in the Libya situation to the court yesterday evening. And we are working with the registry to enable continuity of business in the field of IT and beyond. Germany has been a solid supporter of the court from its inception. We have been, and we will continue to be, a major contributor financially, both to the general budget as well as to the Trust Fund for Victims and its important work. We promote knowledge of international criminal law through the Nuremberg Principles Academy. And we particularly support the new process agreed by the special session in New York and now underpinned by the creation of a sub-working group of the Working Group on Amendments to enhance the jurisdiction of the court on the crime of aggression. Let us strengthen this court to ensure it remains a central pillar of the legal order. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Jeffrey Courmy, the Ambassador of Malta to the Kingdom of the Netherlands. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Malta aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the EU. In addition, I would like to add some remarks in my national capacity. At the outset, allow me to extend words of thank you, Madam President, the Bureau, the Secretariat, as well as all the facilitators who have contributed to make this week's session possible. During the past year, the resilience of the ICC has once again been tested. We have witnessed the imposition of sanctions on the court's elected officials, including the prosecutor, deputy prosecutors, judges, and also on those who cooperate with the court. These measures, taken in direct response to the official discharge of their mandates in full compliance with the Rome Statute, have impacted their ability to function in their everyday lives and have sought to undermine the very foundation of international justice. While the challenges the court is facing continue to mount, reflecting also the growing demands being placed upon it, so too are the deplorable atrocities being committed across the globe. Despite the challenges which it is facing, the ICC has continued to fulfill its mandate without interruption. And in this regard, allow me to express our sincere appreciation to the court officials and personnel for their perseverance. The court's determination and commitment to deliver justice to victims of the most serious crimes remains unwavering, as is our support. Allow me, Madam President, to take this opportunity to renew our commitment and to reaffirm our adherence to the values and principles of the court. Madam President, Malta stands firmly with the court. As a dedicated state party, Malta has consistently supported the ICC's mandate and will continue to do so. We reaffirm our commitment to upholding the rule of law, promoting accountability, and ensuring justice to victims. At this point, allow me to refer to the Trust Fund for Victims. Fully cognizant of this enduring importance of a victim-centered approach to justice, this year, for the 5th consecutive year, Malta provided a voluntary contribution to the Trust Fund for Victims. This is not merely a financial gesture, but a reaffirmation of our principled commitment to stand with survivors. It also demonstrates our support to the court's efforts to deliver reparative justice and to restore hope and dignity to those who have suffered. Yet, we are aware that the challenges which the court is facing today required a collective response. As state parties, we must take decisive steps to strengthen the Rome Statute system and stand firm in defending the court's independence, impartiality, and integrity against pressure. Our collective commitment to the principles of the Rome Statute must remain unshaken. It is also our collective responsibility to broaden the reach of the Rome Statute and make it truly universal and inclusive. At the same time, we must continue to work diligently to align the court's jurisdiction across all 4 core crimes. These commitments remain the very foundation upon which the international criminal justice system was built. Madam President, we cannot overlook the vital role of civil society, and we should recognize their tireless advocacy and engagement. We are aware that civil society itself is facing growing challenges, from resource constraints to imposition of sanctions. It is our shared responsibility to ensure that their voices continue to be heard and their contributions valued, as they are our indispensable partners in the fight against impunity. Excellencies, colleagues, we know that the challenges before us are great, but so is our determination. The ICC remains an essential pillar of international criminal justice, and it must remain so. As state parties, we must safeguard the court so that it remains strong, credible, and capable of delivering its mandate, to ensure that justice is delivered to those who need it the most. Thank you.
I thank you for your intervention, dear colleague. Et maintenant, j'ai le plaisir de donner la parole à ma chère collègue, son Excellence Madame Clara Nunes dos Santos, l'ambassadrice de Portugal au Royaume de Pays-Bas. Vous avez la parole.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, it is with great honor that we address today the 24th session of the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute. Let me begin by stating that Portugal shares the views expressed in the statement delivered by the European Union. Madam President, Portugal wishes to commend you and all the officials and the staff of the Court for your efforts and dedication in fulfilling the mandate of the Court, despite the progressively challenging environment in which it operates. This confirmed the resilience of the Court, regardless of the various conflicts affecting the world, the tense political context, the threats, sanctions, and attacks against the Court, its officials, staff, and those cooperating with it. In this context, Portugal strongly regrets such threats, sanctions, and attacks, which we consider to be a serious interference with the independence and impartiality of the Court that can jeopardize the exercise of its functions. Portugal wants to highlight that the ICC has a deterrent effect at domestic, regional, and international levels, and has become a fundamental tool both in the prevention of further perpetrations of serious crimes and peace processes, while also ensuring victims' protection and participation, as well as their right to reparation and to the truth. The integrity and universality of the Rome Statute continue and will continue to be a priority for Portugal, and since the ICC has a complementary nature, it is important to keep in mind that the jurisdiction over the perpetrators starts and lies primarily with states and their national jurisdictions. Having said that, it is our view that states, as well as their people, are better served by being part of the international judicial community instead of being outside of it. Therefore, while we welcome once more Ukraine as a state party to the Rome Statute, we also regret the choice of some states to proceed with their separation from this community and call on these states to continue to engage and reassess their position. Madam President, It is our strong conviction that, with the support of all of us, the Court will prevail as a strong international judicial entity in the fight against impunity. Its role in contributing to a lasting and sustainable peace is not negotiable and needs to be preserved. Our collective resolve is crucial to protect not only the Court, but also the values and principles it represents. Madam President, let us be clear. Peace without justice is a false peace. As the former UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon recalled at the Kampala conference, that would just be a truce at gunpoint, without dignity, justice, or hope for a better future. Let me reiterate once more our belief that the Court plays a crucial role in the fight against impunity and in seeking justice for victims of the most serious crimes. But the Court cannot alone fight impunity and ensure accountability. It relies on the cooperation of states in the discharge of these functions. To consolidate this fundamental role, we must reinforce the cooperation between the Court and the state parties, but also the cooperation between the Court and non-state parties, the United Nations, and other international and regional organizations. In this sense, all cooperation efforts are fundamental to the ICC to be able to perform the role that it was entrusted by the Rome Statute. Portugal would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the important role that civil society plays toward this end. Madam President, as foreseen in the compromise adopted in Kampala, the ASP held a special session last July to review the amendments on the crime of aggression. Portugal has always been a strong supporter of the amendment of the Rome Statute for the harmonization of the ICC jurisdiction over all the 4 of the Rome Statute's core crimes. In spite of our expectations, we support the establishment of a roadmap with concrete deadlines and objectives to continue the discussion on this matter in the future, as soon as possible, which is reflected in resolution ICC ASP1 Res 1, and we recognize that it was the possible solution in the 3 short days of negotiations. Portugal would also like to highlight the fact that, though having different opinions, all the state parties were able to find a consensus, and we were pleased to witness the participation of a large number of states, both against and in favor of the amendment. In this sense, we hope that the dedicated subgroup of the Working Group on Amendments will present to the ACP a report on what was already been done and with concrete steps in accordance with the resolution adopted by the special section. Madam President, let me end our statement by pledging once more the support of Portugal to the International Criminal Court and to its independence, impartiality and integrity. Portugal is fully committed to working with you and every delegation towards a successful accession of the Assembly of State Parties. Thank you, Madam President. Muito obrigada.
Je vous remercie de votre déclaration, Excellence. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Kaija Suvanto, Director General of Legal Service at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, Finland aligns itself with a statement delivered by Denmark on behalf of the European Union. Allow me to commend the President of the Court, its elected officials and staff, and the President of the Assembly for their invaluable work and resilience. More than 2 decades ago, the states establishing the ICC affirmed that the most serious crimes of concern to the international community must not go unpunished. Today, as we witness the vast proliferation of armed conflicts around the world, the global fight against impunity is more important than ever. However, while the ICC is delivering on its mandate, it's facing unprecedented attacks, threats and coercive measures. We welcome the focus of this general debate on ways to strengthen the court. Madam Vice President, Finland condemns the sanctions imposed against the elected officials of the court and those cooperating with it. These measures must be retracted. Sanctions not only jeopardize all ongoing investigations, but also increase the risk of impunity for the most serious international crimes, hinder access to justice for victims, and erode the international rule of law. We reiterate our full commitment to support the ICC and to preserve its integrity and call on all states to respect the independence and impartiality of the court. The civil society actors collaborating with the court must be protected. We can all contribute towards a stronger ICC, for example, by demonstrating our political and diplomatic support, by cooperating with the court, by working towards universality, and by providing adequate resources for the court. Finland will pay its assessed contribution for 2026 swiftly, and we encourage all states to do so. The full realization of the rights of victims and survivors is at the heart of the Rome Statute. Since 2004, Finland has supported the valuable work of the Trust Fund for Victims with more than 5 million euros. This year, we will provide a contribution of 400,000 euros to assist, among other things, the victims of sexual and gender-based violence in Central African Republic and to launch the landmark reparations program for the victims in the Ongwen case. In addition to ensuring that more victims receive assistance and reparations, voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund strengthen the court. Madam Vice President, we commend the court for its firm commitment to continue its work despite the unprecedented challenges. The recent historical conviction in the Darfur situation, the first in a situation referred to the ICC by the UN Security Council, and reaffirming gender-based prosecution as a crime against humanity, clearly demonstrates the court's dedication. Equally, the court continues its work to deliver justice, for example, in the situation of Ukraine, Afghanistan, Libya, and Myanmar. Finland welcomes the consensus outcome of the special session on the review of the amendments of the crime of aggression, which defines the way forward in strengthening the jurisdiction of the court. We look forward to participating in the work of the new subgroup of the Working Group of Amendments. Madam Vice President, under the Rome Statute, state parties are obliged to cooperate fully with the court and to comply with requests for arrest and surrender. The ICC's ability to fulfill its mandate is dependent on states' cooperation, including in the execution of arrest warrants. We deplore any instances of non-compliance with the obligation to cooperate. The universality of the Rome Statute remains a priority. With nearly two-thirds of all UN member states already parties to the statute, we regret the recent announcement by some state parties to withdraw from the Rome Statute and encourage them to reconsider and to engage with the Assembly. We emphasize the importance of a healthy and inclusive working culture, as well as the court's zero-tolerance policy towards harassment and other misconduct. We stress the importance of addressing and investigating any allegations in a fair and impartial manner. In closing, Finland welcomes further opportunities to discuss concrete measures to strengthen the court. You can always count on Finland's unwavering support. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Karl Leich, the Chief International Legal Advisor at the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade of New Zealand. You have the floor.
Madam Vice President, New Zealand is a strong supporter of the International Criminal Court and its mandate to hold to account those who commit the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. The court has, over more than 2 decades, become an essential element of international peace and security architecture. New Zealand values the work of the court and expresses its appreciation for the dedication of all those who serve the court's important mandate. New Zealand welcomes Ukraine as the 125th state party. At the same time, we note with concern the announcement by certain other states parties of their intention to withdraw from the court. The cooperation and assistance of all states parties is essential to the court's work and mandate. The Rome Statute sets out obligations on states parties to cooperate with the court. This includes facilitating the arrest and surrender of perpetrators of the most serious crimes of concern. We encourage all state parties to comply fully with their obligations. Madam Vice President, New Zealand is concerned about the grave threats facing the court. The court's personnel should be able to carry out their work without intimidation. Sanctions and other coercive measures that seek to impede the work of the court are regrettable and counterproductive. They risk gravely damaging an institution that was built to ensure that accountability, not impunity, prevails. The Rome Statute provides that the Assembly shall provide management oversight to the Presidency, the Prosecutor, and the Registrar about the administration of the court. We recall the important work of the study group on governance, which invited the court to engage in a structured dialogue with states parties with a view to strengthening the institutional framework of the Rome Statute system. We also recall resolutions of the ASP in which we recognise that enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of the court is a common interest of both the Assembly and the court. With that in mind, New Zealand underlines the importance of dialogue between the court, states parties and non-states parties. We consider that such dialogue may reduce the prospect of further coercive measures against individuals and the court. We further consider that such dialogue, while fully respecting the judicial and prosecutorial independence of the court, could include the opportunity to discuss even sensitive topics. Those topics might include issues such as complementarity, prioritisation, universality, and possible amendments to the statute. The experience from the recent review conference is that states parties are willing to approach sensitive issues with pragmatism and care. New Zealand remains committed to working alongside others, including non-states parties and civil society, to ensure the court continues to be an effective and durable judicial institution. Madam Vice President, together with many colleagues, New Zealand officials worked hard at this year's special session on the crime of aggression to achieve consensus. We were pleased that participants succeeded in identifying a pathway forward. The session demonstrated that the Assembly of States Parties is capable of working collaboratively to achieve results. Indeed, the Assembly is at its strongest when it works in unison and achieves practical outcomes that achieve broad support. Madam Vice President, New Zealand supports a well-run court. We thank the Registrar and his team for their work to ensure all pillars of the court have the support they need to do their work. We remain focused on ensuring the court is sufficiently resourced to undertake its work. We thank the Committee on Budget and Finance for its guidance in the lead up to this Assembly. New Zealand was also pleased to pay our assessed contribution to the court early. New Zealand strongly supports the Trust Fund for Victims and its important work. For many in situation countries, the Trust Fund is the face and the hands through which individuals see the court and see international justice. New Zealand is pleased to be a long-standing contributor to the fund. Finally, Madam Vice President, without minimising the grave challenges facing the court, we are encouraged by the support already expressed in this debate. New Zealand remains committed to working alongside others in support of the court and the Rome Statute. New Zealand will continue to serve all states parties as a pragmatic and constructive Bureau member for the remainder of our term. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Juraj Podhorski, Ambassador of Slovakia to the Netherlands. You have the floor, dear Juraj.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Slovakia aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the European Union and its member states. I wish to make a few additional remarks in my national capacity. Slovakia reiterates its long-standing firm position, whereby accountability for crimes under international law is a crucial element of the rules-based international order. The International Criminal Court has served as a stronghold of the fight against impunity since its creation, and its fundamental mission in the field of international criminal justice as a permanent accountability mechanism remains undisputed. The court is, however, facing an increasing number of significant challenges. Slovakia is gravely concerned by sanctions against elected officials, the threat of further sanctions, as well as other attacks against the court, all made for the sole reason of independently carrying out its mandate and pursuing the fundamental interests of justice. In this respect, we wish to applaud the tireless work of the Registrar of the Court, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala Giller, in response to existing sanctions and threats, as well as to make the institution more resilient. Slovakia stands firmly behind the court in face of these challenges and reiterates its readiness to support any meaningful measure to enable the court to carry out its mandate in a safe and secure environment. The ASP, as the governance oversight body, plays a crucial role in strengthening the Rome Statute system. In this regard, we welcome the adoption of the terms of reference for the ad hoc panel, as well as of the related changes to the legal framework. In our view, safe and conducive work environment for staff members is indispensable for the good and effective functioning of the institution. The highest standards of accountability and integrity must be integrated into the day-to-day work of the institution. Slovakia further welcomes the draft resolution on the procedure and criteria for the waiver of the loss of voting rights. We firmly believe that ensuring the predictable and stable financing of the ICC is a key responsibility of state parties. This resolution is an important tool for translating that responsibility into real action. Madam Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, the Court is vitally reliant on state parties in the field of cooperation. Slovakia, therefore, notes with concern the high number of outstanding arrest warrants, as well as the failure by state parties to execute arrest warrants against persons on their territory. Madam Vice President, the Rome Statute is founded on the crucial recognition that the most serious crimes under international law threaten the peace, security, and well-being of the world, and therefore they must not go unpunished. It reflects the necessity to uphold international law, inter alia, by pursuing accountability for the perpetrators and justice for the victims. These efforts can be best achieved by the widest possible participation of states in the Rome Statute system. In this regard, we welcome Ukraine as the most recent state party as of 1st January 2025. At the same time, we regret the decision of one country to withdraw from the Rome Statute and from APIC, as well as the announcement by 3 countries of their intent to withdraw from the Rome Statute. We hope, as the President of the ASP stressed in her statement of 5th June 2025, that these developments represent only a brief pause to the commitments of these countries to international justice. To conclude, Madam Vice President, I wish to recall Slovakia's unwavering support for the Court and assure you of our readiness to work constructively with you and all participants throughout this Assembly session. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your intervention, dear colleague. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Yoon Shik Hwang, Director General at the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. You have the floor, sir.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my profound honor to address this Assembly on behalf of the Republic of Korea. I thank President Kalkuranta for her steadfast leadership during these challenging times, and also thank the judges and all personnel of the International Criminal Court for their unwavering dedication to justice. The ICC embodies the international community's efforts to combat impunity. The court has dealt with 33 cases to date, resulting in 13 convictions. Despite persistent challenges, the court has significantly contributed to ensuring accountability for the most serious crimes of international concern and securing justice for victims. The most recent cases demonstrate the commitment of the court to fulfilling its mandate with integrity and independence. In July, the court convicted Yekatom and Ngaisona for crimes in the Central African Republic, with 1,965 victims participating in the court's proceedings. In October, it convicted Abd al-Rahman on 27 counts, marking the first ever conviction of war crimes and crimes against humanity in relation to the Darfur case. Our meeting today is all the more important precisely because the ICC faces unprecedented challenges. Various attempts to undermine the court's work test our collective commitment to the Rome Statute. For the ICC to continue its vital mission under increasingly difficult circumstances, the unity and resolve of state parties remains essential. The Republic of Korea has been a staunch supporter of the ICC from its inception. Since our ratification in 2002, we have demonstrated our commitment through concrete contributions, with Korean experts serving the court by hosting regional cooperation seminars, providing full cooperation in response to court's requests for evidence collection, offering sustained political support, and as the seventh largest financial contributor, Korea will continue to stand with the court. Achieving universality of the Rome Statute is truly the path to strengthening the ICC. As ad country focal point for universality alongside the Netherlands, whose commitment and cooperation we deeply appreciate, Korea has made various efforts to promote ratification of the Rome Statute, and we will continue this mission, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. As we confront complex legal and political challenges, it is also important that we reaffirm the fundamental principles enshrined in the Rome Statute, including the duty of cooperation and the principle of complementarity, as well as other core principles that define the court's mission and jurisdiction. These principles are indispensable to achieving our non-negotiable goals of ensuring accountability and delivering justice for victims. We look forward to engaging in sincere and constructive dialogue on diverse perspectives in this regard, while reaffirming our shared commitment to resisting unjust pressure firmly and in unity for the impartiality and independence of the court. The rule of law at the international level requires active defense and concrete support. The role of the state parties to the Rome Statute is by no means inconsequential. The Republic of Korea renews its long-standing commitment to international criminal justice and will continue to support the court in every possible way. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Mr. Director General. And now it's a pleasure to give, for me to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Agustin Vasquez Gomez, the Ambassador of El Salvador to the Netherlands. You have the floor, dear friend.
Muchas gracias, Margarita, querida vicepresidenta, excelencias, distinguidos representantes de la Corte, observadores, representantes de la sociedad civil, amigos todos. La República de El Salvador inicia su intervención expresándole su reconocimiento por su dedicación en la conducción de esta asamblea, señora vicepresidenta, y por la labor de los miembros de la mesa en la preparación de los informes que sustentan este 24º periodo de sesiones de la Asamblea de los Estados Parte. En este marco, hacemos también un especial reconocimiento, en ausencia, a la presidenta Tomoko Akane por su gestión judicial y administrativa durante su primer año al frente de la Corte. Confiamos en que continuará guiando a la institución con integridad, eficiencia y plena adhesión a las disposiciones del Estatuto de Roma. El compromiso de mi país con la justicia es firme e irrenunciable, tanto en nuestra jurisdicción interna como en el marco del derecho penal internacional. Desde nuestra adhesión al Estatuto hace 9 años, El Salvador ha sostenido la convicción de que los crímenes más graves de trascendencia internacional no deben de quedar impunes. La primacía de las Cortes Nacionales y, de manera complementaria, la función de una jurisdicción internacional de última instancia, como la Corte Penal Internacional, constituyen pilares esenciales. De esta forma, respondemos adecuadamente a las víctimas, asegurando la debida investigación y sanción de quienes resulten responsables de tales atrocidades. En este contexto, hacemos un llamado a la comunidad internacional a redoblar los esfuerzos orientados a privilegiar el respeto al derecho internacional, la diplomacia, el diálogo y el propósito de preservar la paz y la seguridad internacionales. Señora Vicepresidenta, la visión de justicia de El Salvador se centra en la responsabilidad penal individual, pero también en la aspiración superior de garantizar una convivencia ciudadana libre de violencia y de cualquier posibilidad de reincidencia criminal, como una exigencia legítima de nuestra sociedad. La reconstrucción del tejido social en las comunidades afectadas y la promoción de oportunidades económicas y de inclusión son elementos sustanciales para una justicia con resultados duraderos. Solo así se previenen desde nuestra perspectiva las condiciones estructurales que en el pasado facilitaron la comisión de graves crímenes. Señora Vicepresidenta, persisten desafíos estructurales para la Corte, entre ellos la aspiración a la universalidad del Estatuto de Roma, una justicia penal internacional verdaderamente global, plenamente operativa bajo el principio de complementariedad, contribuirá a fortalecer el efecto disuasorio frente a atrocidades masivas. En materia presupuestaria, El Salvador mantiene su política de crecimiento nominal cero en los organismos internacionales de los que forma parte. Sin embargo, reconocemos el esfuerzo de la Corte por presentar una propuesta que refleja responsabilidad y disciplina financiera, pilares esenciales para la sostenibilidad institucional. Para concluir, señora Presidenta, reitero el compromiso de El Salvador con un sistema internacional basado en el derecho, la cooperación y la búsqueda conjunta de la justicia. Continuaremos trabajando de manera constructiva para fortalecer nuestros objetivos comunes de paz, seguridad y justicia global, en pleno respeto a la soberanía de los Estados y al mandato que inspira a esta Asamblea. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por su intervención, distinguido amigo. Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Greg French, the Ambassador of Australia to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Greg.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. I have the honour to speak on behalf of the Government of Australia. Let me start by reaffirming Australia's steadfast support for the International Criminal Court. Australia is determined to ensure accountability for crimes that threaten international peace and security, to deliver justice for victims, to end impunity and guard against future atrocities. And we consider this court to be pivotal in realising this commitment. Madam Vice President, we express our appreciation for the court's work over the last year. We note that in 2025, the court was seized of 22 situations, and today 3 trials are on foot. Madam Vice President, Australia supports an appropriate budget increase to enable the court to continue its fight against impunity. At the same time, as the court's list continues to grow, we encourage it to focus on its core mandate and to find ways to work effectively and efficiently within the reality of finite resources. Madam Vice President, we would like to emphasise the importance of the principle of complementarity in guiding the court's work. accountability begins at home. As a court of last resort, the court's role is complementary to that of national criminal jurisdictions. States bear the primary responsibility to investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute those responsible for serious international crimes. As co-focal point on complementarity with Uganda, Australia reiterates that this principle is indeed crucial to the court's success and must be respected. And we look forward to continuing to facilitate further cooperation on complementarity issues at this year's Assembly of States Parties. Madam Vice President, Australia is committed to upholding and defending the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute, as well as the court's integrity and independence. And we encourage all states parties and civil society to ensure the court is as robust an institution as it can be and as effective as it can be. This is particularly so in the face of attempts to interfere with its operations and staff. Such threats include increasingly malicious cyber attacks, which we unequivocally condemn. Madam Vice President, Australia recognises the impact of actions against the court and its staff. In this regard, Australia emphasises the importance of constructive conversations between all states parties and with others who engage with the court. Such dialogue will be critical in strengthening the court and ensuring its continued operation and resilience in the years to come. As we reflect on the lessons of more than 25 years, we are seized of the need for reform. While we commend the court and states parties on their efforts to date, including through the independent expert review process, we believe the process of reform must be ongoing. We look forward to engaging with all relevant actors to ensure the court is best placed to fulfil its important role in pursuing accountability for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Arnoldo Bernes Castro, the Ambassador of Costa Rica to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Arnoldo.
Señora Vicepresidenta, Excelencias, señores delegados, señoras delegadas. Somos testigos de un mundo que se transforma a grandes pasos. Un mundo que, a nuestro pesar, da indicios de seguir una dirección muy distinta de la que avisorábamos al firmar el Estatuto de Roma, hace ya más de un cuarto de siglo. Hoy presenciamos con sorpresa los sostenidos embates contra la justicia penal internacional que resultan simple y llanamente inaceptables. Ante este panorama, debemos tener claridad sobre lo siguiente. Es de la capacidad de respuesta y de anticipación de todos nosotros, como Estados parte del Estatuto de Roma, que dependerá en gran medida que todo lo construido a lo largo de estos años no se diluya ni se desvanezca en medio de estas agitadas aguas. El contexto actual pone a prueba, de una manera pocas veces vista, nuestro nivel de compromiso con el derecho internacional y con el Estado de Derecho. El contexto son estos los momentos en los que más necesitamos de la Corte y en los que la Corte más necesita de nosotros. Porque si bien es cierto, la Presidencia, la Fiscalía, la Secretaría y los funcionarios de la institución han asumido con una encomiable valentía, creatividad y visión los enormes retos de esta coyuntura, que incluye tanto órdenes de arresto y sanciones a algunos de sus oficiales electos, así como sofisticados ataques cibernéticos, los Estados parte, debemos decir, presente, con una determinación aún mayor en esta misión compartida de continuar asegurando que la humanidad cuente con mecanismos efectivos para prevenir y evitar la impunidad ante los crímenes más graves y reparar a las víctimas, quienes deben estar en el centro de nuestras acciones. Al tiempo que celebramos que la membresía de la Corte Penal Internacional haya alcanzado su cifra más alta, con 125 Estados parte comprometidos con la justicia penal internacional, no podemos ignorar la preocupación que generan anuncios de retiro del Estatuto de Roma. Este contraste evidencia una realidad compleja. Por un lado, la aspiración compartida de fortalecer la universalidad del sistema. Por otro, decisiones que pueden debilitar su capacidad para ofrecer justicia a las víctimas de los crímenes más graves. Es por ello que Costa Rica hace un llamado muy respetuoso, pero también vehemente, a reconsiderar este tipo de decisiones. Debilitar a la Corte Penal Internacional es un lujo que no nos podemos permitir. Cualquier acción que busque socavar el cumplimiento de su mandato a través de ataques, amenazas o sanciones a jueces, fiscales, funcionarios y a los países, personas y entidades que cooperan con ella, deben generar nuestro inequívoco rechazo. Lo anterior también implica la necesidad de la continua integridad y honestidad en el actuar de todas las personas funcionarias de la Corte. Esta Asamblea debe emitir un mensaje político claro en defensa de la Corte y de la justicia penal internacional. Y más allá del mensaje político, los Estados parte debemos tomar medidas concretas en respaldo de la Corte a través de nuestro trabajo cotidiano. Por ejemplo, haciendo aún más visible nuestro apoyo político, facilitando los canales de diálogo con la Secretaría, honrando oportunamente nuestras obligaciones financieras o brindando apoyo a la Fiscalía cuando haya requerimientos para brindar asistencia. Por otra parte, la seguridad de los oficiales electos, especialmente aquellos contra quienes se han emitido órdenes de arresto, debe ser reforzada, por lo que resulta esencial que todos los Estados parte adopten el acuerdo sobre los privilegios e inmunidades de la Corte Penal Internacional y tomen medidas para proteger a los oficiales electos sancionados. Adicionalmente, debemos recordar que corresponde a los Estados parte ejecutar las 33 órdenes de arresto públicas existentes. El incumplimiento de órdenes judiciales permite a algunos criticar a la Corte, pero en realidad su cumplimiento constituye una obligación internacional de los Estados que tomaron la decisión soberana de ratificar el Estatuto de Roma. Sin el compromiso y acción decidida de estos, la Corte no puede ser efectiva en cumplir con su mandato. Señora Vicepresidenta, finalizo subrayando el excepcional trabajo realizado por la Corte durante este año, particularmente en la elaboración del presupuesto para el año 2026 y el Plan Estratégico 2026-2029. Ambos han sido construidos de manera cuidadosa y coordinada bajo el principio de una sola Corte. Para Costa Rica, esto constituye un gran mensaje y rinde cuenta de la calidad del liderazgo existente en la organización. En el caso del ejercicio presupuestal para el año 2026, ha permitido una negociación fluida y serena de cara a esta Asamblea. La propuesta es congruente y ha sabido tomar en cuenta las preocupaciones y realidades financieras manifestadas por los Estados parte y, a pesar de las circunstancias actuales, permitirá contar con recursos estables y predecibles. Esto, aunado al Plan Estratégico 2026-2029, hará posible que la institución sostenga firmemente el timón mientras enfrentamos, juntos y con determinación, estas aguas turbulentas. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por su intervención. Y ahora doy la palabra a Su Excelencia Álvaro González Otero, embajador de Uruguay.
Señora Vicepresidenta de la Asamblea, estimada embajadora Margarita Casangana, autoridades de la Corte, excelentísimos colegas, distinguidos delegados, representantes de la sociedad civil. Este año, la Corte Penal Internacional celebró el 23º aniversario de la entrada en vigor del Estatuto de Roma y el 27º desde su adopción. En el actual escenario mundial se nos recuerda constantemente la necesidad de defender los pilares del derecho internacional en los que la CPI marca su pauta. El Estatuto de Roma sigue siendo un instrumento fundamental en la búsqueda colectiva de la justicia, así como la rendición de cuentas. Hoy, en consonancia con nuestro apoyo constante, Uruguay desea reafirmar su inquebrantable compromiso con la paz, el respeto a los principios del derecho internacional y especialmente alienta a la CPI en su lucha contra la impunidad de los autores de los crímenes internacionales más graves y en su labor de prevención de estos crímenes atroces. Es de suma importancia que todos los Estados parte se expresen explícitamente frente a los complejos desafíos que enfrenta hoy la comunidad internacional. Uruguay reafirma su pleno respaldo a la labor de la CPI. En un momento en que la Corte enfrenta presiones crecientes, resulta más urgente que nunca defender su mandato, investigar y enjuiciar a aquellos responsables de crímenes atroces cuando los sistemas nacionales no lo hacen en aplicación del principio de complementariedad. Al fortalecer a la Corte, no solo se protege a las víctimas de genocidio, crímenes de guerra o de lesa humanidad, sino que se reafirma el principio de que nadie está por encima de la ley y se envía un mensaje claro de que el derecho internacional continúa vigente, especialmente en la coyuntura actual que enfrenta el multilateralismo. Mi delegación aboga por una cooperación plena de los Estados, protección de sus jueces y fiscales y el compromiso de toda la comunidad internacional para que el máximo Tribunal Penal Internacional pueda cumplir su mandato sin interferencias políticas ni amenazas. En el caso de Uruguay, contamos con la pionera ley de cooperación con la CPI, Ley 18.026, que es integral, ya que recoge las obligaciones internacionales jurídicas y establece los mecanismos de cooperación entre nuestras autoridades y los órganos de la Corte. Además, crea un proceso nacional participativo para la nominación de candidatos a juez o fiscal. Esto refuerza la posición de la CPI a nivel global y legitima su papel a nivel nacional, integrando así progresivamente a las instituciones multilaterales. Asimismo, nuestro país ha reafirmado su firme compromiso con la Corte mediante la donación de una significativa obra escultórica del artista uruguayo Roberto Vivo, titulada Tótem de la Tribu Humana. Celebramos que esta pieza haya sido recibida con entusiasmo por parte del organismo y confiamos en poder inaugurarla oficialmente en el corto plazo como símbolo de los valores universales que compartimos. Esta pieza artística encarna la génesis de los valores fundamentales que inspiran el mandato de la Corte Penal Internacional, tales como la paz, la justicia y protección de los derechos humanos, y busca contribuir simbólicamente al fortalecimiento de su misión universal. La centralidad de las víctimas es un elemento de suma importancia en el Estatuto de Roma, debiendo asegurarse su participación en los diferentes procedimientos, así como su derecho a la reparación. Uruguay agradece la capacidad y la versatilidad de la CPI y sus funcionarios en adaptarse al cambiante mundo que nos rodea. Respaldamos la necesidad y urgencia de todos los Estados parte de una participación activa en defender el positivo rol de la Corte, sobre todo ante posibles futuros desafíos que el siguiente año pueda traer. Nuestro país, al igual que numerosos Estados parte, confía en que se encontrarán soluciones eficaces a los desafíos que actualmente afectan el funcionamiento interno y externo de la institución. Al mismo tiempo, instamos a la oficina del fiscal a redoblar esfuerzos para lograr avances sustantivos en todas las denuncias, de modo que la Corte pueda plasmar en la práctica su objetivo de ser un faro de justicia e igualdad, actuando como una firme luz de alerta para quienes planean cometer crímenes contemplados en el Estatuto de Roma. En este sentido, destacamos que una de las mayores fortalezas de la Corte radica en su capacidad de representar todas las regiones, ofreciendo una diversidad que enriquece su labor. En particular, desde el Grupo de América Latina y Caribe, GRULAC, reafirmamos la necesidad de contar con más asesoras especiales, convencidos de que esta representatividad contribuirá a fortalecer de manera significativa la oficina del fiscal. Finalmente, reiteramos nuestro firme compromiso con la labor de la Corte, que tras 23 años de existencia se ha consolidado como una valiosa institución indispensable para quienes creen en un mundo mejor, regido por reglas de respeto al derecho internacional y por los altos valores perseguidos por el Estatuto de Roma. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, dear Ambassador. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Cecilia Sigardato-Tir, Director General for Legal and Executive Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iceland. You have the floor, Madam.
Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to address this Assembly today on behalf of the Government of Iceland. This year marks 25 years since Iceland became the 10th state to ratify the Rome Statute, thus playing its part during the final push of the decades-long effort of establishing a permanent international criminal court. Since it commenced operations, the ICC has opened avenues for access to justice for hundreds of thousands of victims of atrocity crimes across the world. In this short time, it has cemented itself as a pillar of the international justice system and as a vanguard of restorative justice. It has become indispensable to upholding the pledge to never again let the most serious crimes be perpetrated with impunity. 25 years on from ratification, Iceland remains unwavering in its commitment to the court and to upholding its integrity, independence, and impartiality. Madam Vice President, inherent in the mission of the Rome Statute is to ensure accountability for those who commit the most serious crimes, irrespective of who the perpetrator is or how powerful it is. The primary responsibility for prosecuting these crimes rests with the states with jurisdiction. The ICC is a court of last resort, where the responsible state is unwilling or unable to investigate and prosecute. In that regard, cooperation with the court remains a fundamental obligation of states parties to ensure that justice can be effectively delivered. Victims are at the heart of that justice. We commend the work of the Trust Fund for Victims, which plays an essential role in ensuring reparations and assistance to thousands of victims. Iceland continues to provide funding to the Trust Fund, and we call on others to do so as well. As the last bastion in the fight against impunity, it has always been inevitable that the court faces adversity from those who, for one reason or another, are opposed to the delivery of justice in each case. However, the scale and gravity of the attacks, threats, and pressure levied against the court in the past year has been unprecedented. The Government of Iceland recognizes the exceptionally difficult circumstances in which the court is currently operating. We recognize the extreme burdens that are being borne by the court's officials, its staff, and those who cooperate with the court. Their resilience, courage, and dedication to the mission of the court under grave pressure has been exemplary. We express profound gratitude to all those who endure in these circumstances. Your efforts keep the light of justice lit and the fight against impunity alive. Madam Vice President, the Government of Iceland is deeply concerned about hostile actions taken against the court. We renew our call on all states to respect its independence and impartiality. While prospects for international peace and security are deteriorating, we are heartened that at this Assembly, we stand alongside other states parties in solidarity with the court. It is of fundamental importance that we rise to this challenge and act effectively as a shield for the ICC, so that it can continue to act as our shield from atrocity crimes. Securing that protection depends on continuing to strengthen the robustness of the court as an institution and its jurisdiction. We recognize the outcome of this summer's special session, whereby the Assembly committed itself to the aim of strengthening the jurisdiction of the court over the crime of aggression as an important step. Iceland will contribute constructively to the process ahead, ensuring that those who commit the most serious crime against international peace and security can be held to account. We arrive at this Assembly eager for dialogue among states parties on how we can continue to strengthen the court's resilience and protect it from hostile external interference. We recognize the value of wider dialogue with non-states parties, emphasizing that our guiding light must always be the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute. What is not up for discussion is the pledge we have all made to guarantee lasting respect for international justice and its enforcement. Our fight against impunity is more critical than ever. At the core of this pledge is our unwavering commitment to the integrity, independence, and impartiality of the ICC. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Et maintenant, je donne la parole à Monsieur Tobias Schell, chef du département juridique et conseiller juridique principal au ministère des Affaires étrangères et européen, de la Défense et de la coopération et du commerce extérieur de Luxembourg. Vous avez la parole, monsieur.
Merci, Madame la Vice-présidente. Madame la Vice-présidente, le Luxembourg souscrit pleinement à la déclaration faite par l'Union européenne. Je me permettrai de la compléter par quelques considérations à titre national. Je tiens à féliciter la présidente et le vice-président de l'Assemblée, la présidente de la Cour ainsi que tout le personnel de la Cour pour leur travail et leur dévouement et à leur réitérer notre assurance de notre soutien indéfectible. Nous saluons le travail accompli par la Cour au cours de l'année écoulée, en particulier dans un contexte marqué par une charge de travail accrue et un environnement opérationnel difficile, voire hostile. La Cour demeure une institution indispensable pour combattre l'impunité et promouvoir un ordre fondé sur la règle de droit, en contribuant au respect du droit international pénal, du droit international humanitaire et de l'état de droit. La Cour traduit en termes concrets notre engagement en faveur de cet ordre international. Le Luxembourg demeure un fervent défenseur de la Cour et réaffirme sa volonté de soutenir et de défendre les principes consacrés par le statut de Rome, de protéger son indépendance et de préserver son intégrité. Nous devons malheureusement constater que la Cour continue de faire face à des menaces, intimidations et pressions qui ont des impacts négatifs sur sa sécurité et portent atteinte à son intégrité. Le Luxembourg demeure fermement opposé à toute tentative de discréditer la Cour et d'entraver son travail et condamne toute menace, attaque ou ingérence politique, y compris les sanctions ou mesures d'effet similaires dirigées contre la Cour, son personnel et ceux qui coopèrent avec elle, y compris les membres de la société civile. Le Luxembourg salue et appuie les efforts entrepris par la Cour en vue de renforcer sa résilience et remercie les équipes de la présidence et du greffe pour leur travail inlassable à cet effet. La justice pénale internationale joue un rôle crucial pour garantir que tous les acteurs des crimes les plus graves répondent de leurs actes et pour rendre justice aux victimes qui doivent être au centre de nos efforts. C'est dans cet esprit que le Luxembourg appuie de manière continue le Fonds au profit des victimes et le Fonds spécial pour la installation des témoins. Le fonds au profit des victimes demeure essentiel pour concrétiser la justice réparatrice et répondre aux besoins des victimes des crimes les plus graves. Ces programmes ont démontré un impact réel et durable, mais ils continuent de faire face à d'importants besoins financiers. Le Luxembourg encourage les États à maintenir et accroître leur appui à ces fonds. Le Luxembourg soutient également de manière constante l'allocation d'un budget à l'auteur de la responsabilité de la Cour, condition essentielle à l'exécution efficace de son mandat. Le Luxembourg salue l'action de la société civile dont l'engagement a été déterminant dans l'établissement de la Cour et qui demeure crucial pour la défense de son mandat impartial et indépendant. Nous exhortons aussi tous les États à coopérer sans réserve avec la Cour, y compris lorsqu'il s'agit d'honorer l'entièreté des obligations qui découlent du statut de Rome, et notamment en ce qui concerne l'exécution de tous les arrêts de la Cour. Dans l'accomplissement de sa mission, la Cour est tributaire de la coopération des États pour faire en sorte que tous les auteurs des crimes les plus graves répondent de leurs actes. Les récents reculs de ce domaine sont regrettables et illustrent la nécessité d'un engagement collectif renouvelé en faveur du système du statut de Rome. Ça concerne, pareil, l'exécution de tous les mandats d'arrêt délivrés par la Cour. Le Luxembourg appelle les États qui ne l'ont pas encore fait à ratifier le statut de Rome et tous ses amendements. Nous soutenons le réexamen des amendements de Kampala en vue d'harmoniser la compétence de la Cour pour le crime d'agression avec celle qu'elle exerce pour les autres crimes définis dans le statut. Madame la vice-présidente, la Cour aborde une étape déterminante qui influencera durablement les années à venir. Il nous incombe collectivement de veiller à ce que la Cour dispose du soutien nécessaire pour relever le défi actuel et futur. Le Luxembourg est fermement résolu à continuer de collaborer et dialoguer avec tous les partenaires pour renforcer et faire progresser la lutte contre l'impunité et pour avancer les travaux de la Cour. Je vous remercie.
Je vous remercie de votre déclaration, Monsieur le Directeur. Et maintenant, je voudrais donner la parole à Monsieur Claudio Tronesco Repeto, Directeur général des affaires juridiques au ministère des Affaires étrangères du Chili. Vous avez la parole, Monsieur le Directeur.
Muchas gracias, señora vicepresidenta, integrantes de la mesa, distinguidos representantes y delegados. Quisiera comenzar felicitando a la presidenta de la Asamblea, la señora Päivi Kauko-Ranta, y a los vicepresidentes, embajador Michael Imran y la embajadora Margareta Kasangana, por el notable trabajo realizado este año. Su dedicación ha sido esencial para avanzar en las metas comunes. Chile agradece también la iniciativa de la mesa de dedicar este debate a desarrollar medidas concretas a ser adoptadas por los Estados partes para fortalecer la Corte Penal Internacional. En el actual contexto global, en el que el multilateralismo enfrenta relevantes tensiones, la defensa de la Corte Penal Internacional es clave para promover el compromiso con la verdad, la justicia y la dignidad humana. Señora vicepresidenta, mi delegación reafirma su firme adhesión a los principios que sustentan el derecho internacional, el Estatuto de Roma y la misión de la Corte como piedra angular del sistema de justicia penal internacional. Esta convicción ha formado parte del actuar de Chile en diversas esferas y se ha reflejado en nuestra cooperación constante con la Corte a cuyos representantes tuvimos el honor de recibir en visita oficial a principios de este año. En este sentido, rechazamos decididamente toda medida o sanción que busque menoscabar la independencia judicial, la labor o la seguridad de los funcionarios y funcionarias de la Corte. Los recientes intentos de interferir con su mandato mediante sanciones unilaterales o ciberataques son absolutamente inaceptables. Frente a tales desafíos, los Estados partes tenemos la responsabilidad de responder con unidad, reafirmando la independencia de la Corte. Señora Vicepresidenta, en lo que respecta a acciones concretas para promover el fortalecimiento de la Corte, para mi delegación estas pueden estar enfocadas en los siguientes ámbitos. En primer lugar, debemos reforzar nuestro respaldo político y promover intervenciones y actividades en sustento de la Corte en los foros multilaterales. En este sentido, Chile seguirá siendo una voz activa en la defensa de la legitimidad y la universalidad del Estatuto de Roma. En segundo lugar, los Estados debemos consolidar la cooperación con la Corte, especialmente respecto del cumplimiento oportuno de las órdenes de arresto, protección de testigos y entrega de información. En este contexto, alentamos a los Estados partes a considerar la celebración de acuerdos de cooperación con la Corte. En la misma línea, mi delegación quisiera hacer un llamado a los Estados partes a ratificar las enmiendas del Estatuto de Roma, que incluyen las relativas al artículo 8º y las referidas al crimen de agresión, fortaleciendo la jurisdicción de la Corte y asegurando la plena efectividad de las disposiciones de su estatuto. También invitamos a los Estados que aún no lo han hecho a adherir al acuerdo sobre privilegios e inmunidades de la Corte Penal Internacional, cuya plena aplicación resulta indispensable para garantizar la seguridad jurídica y la protección de quienes sirven o colaboran con la Corte. Actualmente, solo 80 estados son parte del acuerdo, una cifra significativa menor que los 125 que son parte del Estatuto de Roma. Reducir esta brecha es una medida concreta de fortalecimiento institucional. En tercer lugar, invitamos a participar activamente en el subgrupo de trabajo sobre las enmiendas del crimen de agresión, conforme al mandato de la sesión especial de julio pasado, de modo de fortalecer la legitimidad y el consenso sobre este tema. Por último, corresponde promover el cumplimiento de las contribuciones financieras y llamamos a fortalecer el diálogo constructivo en torno al presupuesto con miras a su aprobación por consenso. Chile, en su calidad de facilitador del proceso presupuestario, continuará apoyando ese espíritu de cooperación y transparencia. Del mismo modo, destacamos la valiosa labor del Fondo Fiduciario para las Víctimas, cuya acción contribuye de manera directa a la reparación y el reconocimiento de las víctimas de los crímenes más graves. Chile renovó en 2025 su contribución voluntaria destinada a las víctimas de crímenes sexuales, especialmente mujeres, niñas y niños, que venía realizando desde el año 2019, e invita a los demás estados a realizar contribuciones voluntarias para fortalecer este fondo, pilar esencial de reparación y confianza. Voy concluyendo, señora Vicepresidenta. La resiliencia demostrada por la Corte frente a los ataques y desafíos recientes refleja la solidez del derecho internacional y la determinación de quienes trabajan por la justicia. Su labor nos recuerda que la justicia internacional es un logro compartido que requiere compromiso político, coherencia y cooperación sostenida. Chile acoge con satisfacción la elaboración de un documento de compromisos que refleje medidas concretas para fortalecer a la Corte y participará activamente en ese proceso, convencido
de que con ello se fortalece el Estado de Derecho internacional y la búsqueda de la justicia. Muchas gracias, señora vicepresidenta.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Mr. Director General. And now I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Caroline Kitana Chipeta, Ambassador of Tanzania to the Netherlands. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to take the floor and deliver a statement on behalf of the Government of the United Republic of Tanzania on this 24th August Assembly of State Parties. At the outset, permit me to recognize the consistent commitment that the Presidency has demonstrated in enabling the Court to meet its obligations. The tireless efforts in ensuring that the Assembly continues to fulfill its vital oversight is commendable. My delegation also wishes to pay tribute to the Kingdom of the Netherlands as host state for its continued commitment in providing an enabling environment that fosters effective functioning of the court. The United Republic of Tanzania welcomes the report of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims. We acknowledge the progress made by the fund this year and applaud significant steps taken in advancing reparations. The achievement is reflected in the reports, demonstrated remarkable impact that reaffirmed the central message of the Rome Statute that justice must be meaningful to those who had suffered most. We also acknowledge with deep appreciation the states and donors who continue to contribute to the fund. Their commitment ensures that legal decisions translate into really healing for individuals and communities affected by atrocity crimes. We encourage all state parties to continue supporting the fund so it may effectively meet the growing needs of victims. With sustained solidarity and resources, the Trust Fund can deepen its impact and uphold the promise of meaningful justice under the Rome Statute. Madam Vice President, the United Republic of Tanzania reiterates its strong support for the universality of the Rome Statute. We commend the Geographical Representation and Gender Balance Working Group for its outreach efforts, including regions in Africa and other underrepresented state parties. My delegation commends the Court for steps taken to improve geographical representation and workplace culture. However, in order to close the gap and ensure that the Court's composition reflects the full diversity of the international community itself, my delegation encourages both the Court and the Assembly to intensify these efforts through targeted outreach, recruitment from underrepresented state parties, and career development support. The United Republic of Tanzania takes note of the successful convening of the special session in July to discuss the Kampala amendments on the crime of aggression. My delegation welcomes the work of the Working Group on Amendment throughout 2025 and commends the constructive spirit shown by all delegations during the session. We particularly appreciate the establishment of a dedicated subgroup following the special session tasked with advancing the review process and reporting annually to the Assembly. The structured approach adopted this year for continued consultations, including the exchange of technical views, legal analysis, and draft proposals, strengthen understanding among all state parties and provide the clarity necessary for informed national decisions. We look forward to engaging the work of the subgroup and to the developments expected ahead of the follow-up session in 2027. Optimistic that this process will support the balanced and inclusive outcome for the benefit of the entire Rome Statute community. Madam Vice President, the United Republic of Tanzania commends the Court for coming up with a modest increased budget proposal for the coming year, reflecting sensitivity to the financial constraints faced by many state parties. We welcome the efforts of the stakeholders, including the recommendations of the Committee on Budget and Finance, in promoting efficient and prudent management resources. Building on that, we encourage sustained measures to ensure that available resources are effectively directed to support the Court's core functions and priorities. My delegation takes note of the recent Independent Oversight Mechanism report on working culture within the Court. We welcome the Court's commitment to improving its internal environment, including measures addressing workplace conduct, staff well-being, and prevention of harassment. A healthy, respectful, and accountable working culture is essential for the credibility and effectiveness of the court. Tanzania encourages continued implementation of IOM's recommendation as it believes improving institutional culture strengthens both performance and public trust to the court. Madam Vice President, the United Republic of Tanzania expresses its understanding for the difficult circumstances under which the court has continued to operate and acknowledge the professionalism with which its judicial officers and staff have carried out their responsibilities. Drawing from discussions held within the working group of the Bureau, we encourage continued constructive engagement among all stakeholders with a view to supporting the court's stability, resilience, and commitment to the principles of the Rome Statute. My delegation commends the court for the swift responses of its organs in mitigating potential disruptions caused by cybersecurity incidents. With a special fund for security established, continued implementation of the measures in place, as well as dedicated support of the state parties, we are positive that the threats we face can effectively be addressed. In conclusion, Madam President, the United Republic of Tanzania reaffirms its steadfast commitment to the Rome Statute and the work of the court. We believe the court's strength depends on the continued support from state parties and the trust of the international community. Together, through dialogue and cooperation, we can ensure that the court remains a trusted pillar of international justice. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Excellency, thank you very much for your intervention. And I would like to give the floor now to His Excellency Mr. Andrés Terán Paral, Ambassador of Ecuador to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Andrés.
Señora Vicepresidenta, Excelencias, distinguidos delegados, representantes de la sociedad civil. La delegación del Ecuador desea iniciar expresando un reconocimiento a la labor de la señora Presidenta de la Asamblea de los Estados Parte, señora Paivi Caucoranta, y de los vicepresidentes, señora Embajadora Margareta Casangana y embajador Michael Imran Kanú. Asimismo, saludamos el trabajo de la Secretaría que, bajo el destacado liderazgo de la directora, señora Gabrielle McIntyre, ha contribuido de manera decisiva a la exitosa realización de esta sesión. De igual forma, mi delegación saluda a la presidenta de la Corte, jueza Tomoko Akane, y a los vicepresidentes, juez Rosario Salvatore Italia y jueza Reine Alpini Gansú. Además, reconoce el dedicado trabajo de la Fiscalía y saludar la labor del señor Osvaldo Zavala Giler, secretario de la Corte, quien ha tenido un rol fundamental, eficiente y creativo en el manejo económico y administrativo de la institución, especialmente en el contexto actual que enfrenta la Corte. Señora Vicepresidenta, el Ecuador reitera su firme respaldo al trabajo independiente e imparcial de la institución. Reconocemos que su mandato debe desarrollarse libre de presiones de carácter político y de cualquier forma de amenaza o medida coercitiva que pretenda restringir sus funciones, obstaculizar sus investigaciones o socavar su independencia judicial. La credibilidad y eficacia del sistema de la justicia internacional dependen precisamente de la capacidad de esta institución para actuar con autonomía, objetividad y plena libertad en el ejercicio de sus funciones. En este sentido, destacamos la labor continua de la Corte para cumplir con su mandato y ejercer sus funciones sin interrupciones, incluso en medio de un contexto internacional particularmente complejo. Valoramos los esfuerzos sostenidos para mantener su independencia, fortalecer sus capacidades operativas y garantizar que la justicia internacional siga avanzando pese a los desafíos crecientes que enfrenta. Señora Vicepresidenta, la delegación del Ecuador subraya que la cooperación constituye un pilar esencial para el funcionamiento eficaz del sistema de justicia penal internacional. Solo mediante un compromiso firme y coordinado es posible fortalecer las capacidades de la Corte y asegurar la implementación plena del Estatuto de Roma. En este marco, resaltamos también la importancia de avanzar hacia la universalidad del Estatuto, elemento indispensable para consolidar un régimen verdaderamente global de lucha contra la impunidad. En este contexto resaltamos el valor de diálogo constructivo entre los Estados parte y los Estados no parte, el cual debe llevarse a cabo estrictamente dentro del marco del derecho internacional y con pleno respeto de las disposiciones del Estatuto. Consideramos este intercambio como un ejercicio diplomático orientado a tender puentes de comunicación, promover la universalidad del Estatuto y contribuir al fortalecimiento colectivo del sistema multilateral de justicia. Señora Vicepresidenta, con respecto del presupuesto anual de la Corte, la posición de mi delegación es promover una asignación eficiente de los recursos, tanto financieros como humanos, con miras a evitar incrementos significativos. En este sentido, valoramos los esfuerzos de la Corte por presentar una propuesta transparente y sensible a las difíciles realidades económicas que enfrentan muchos Estados parte, especialmente considerando los desafíos actuales que atraviesa nuestra organización, incluidas las sanciones impuestas a ciertas autoridades y a los persistentes ciberataques. En este contexto consideramos fundamental que la Corte disponga de un presupuesto que le permita fortalecer sus capacidades de resiliencia institucional, proteger su integridad y asegurar el cumplimiento ininterrumpido y eficaz de su mandato. En conclusión, el Ecuador defiende de manera permanente el rol fundamental de la Corte Penal Internacional en la protección del Estado del Derecho Internacional, la lucha contra la impunidad y la garantía de justicia para las víctimas de los crímenes más graves de trascendencia global y bajo su jurisdicción. Reafirmamos que contar con una Corte independiente, eficaz y plenamente respaldada por los Estados parte es esencial para asegurar que estos crímenes no queden sin respuesta y que las víctimas reciban las reparaciones que merecen. En este espíritu, el Ecuador reitera su firme compromiso con el fortalecimiento del sistema del Estatuto de Roma y con la promoción de una justicia internacional que contribuya a la paz, la rendición de cuentas y a la dignidad humana. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Excellency, and thank you for your kind words addressed to the Presidency. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Emil Kishmerov, the Chargé d'Affaires at the Embassy of Bulgaria in The Hague. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished members of the Court, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Bulgaria aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the European Union and would like to make the following comments in its national capacity. I would like to begin by recognizing the hard efforts and the dedication of the President of this Assembly, Mr. Päivi Kaukuranta, the President of the International Criminal Court, Judge Tumakua Kante, the Registrar, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala Aguilar, and all the officials and staff of the Court for fulfilling the mandate of the ICC in these difficult circumstances. Under the current presidency, the Court has managed to remain steadfast in the face of continued challenges and to uphold the international law. The International Criminal Court is a cornerstone of the international criminal justice, and its contribution to a lasting and sustainable peace must be preserved. The continuously increasing workload of the Court clearly demonstrates the relevance of the ICC in the fight against impunity. Bulgaria remains a firm supporter of a balanced and impartial court. We would like to reiterate that the ICC should be able to carry its mandate independently and without intimidation or attempts to undermine its integrity. In this regard, we express our deep concern over recent cyber attacks and sanctions against the court and its officials. We oppose the instrumentalization of the ICC as it endangers the credibility and the effectiveness of the international legal system. Madam President, the foundational principle of complementarity remains key in guiding the Court's work. The International Criminal Court is intended to complement, not to replace, national criminal systems. The cooperation of state parties and the international community is vital for the effective fulfillment of the Court's mandate. Bulgaria attaches great importance to the adequate funding of the ICC, and we call upon the states in arrears to settle their outstanding contributions. We commend the work of the Trust Fund for Victims in delivering reparative justice to victims and their families. We support the court's focus on compensation and rehabilitation to victims. Bulgaria notes the outcome of the special session on the review of the amendments on the crime of aggression that took place in July. The adoption of the resolution by consensus was the result of a continuous dialogue between the state parties. The universalization of the Rome Statute is essential for its strengthening and for the global fight against impunity. We welcome Ukraine as the most recent state party as of 1st of January 2025. As the international rules-based order is facing a myriad of challenges, the International Criminal Court needs to remain a beacon of hope and justice. We stand behind it in carrying out its mandate to achieve accountability for the most serious international crimes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And now I give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Franca Deza Ferracio, Ambassador of Peru to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you. Señora Vicepresidenta de la Asamblea de los Estados Partes, señora Presidenta de la Corte Internacional, honorables miembros de la Mesa, distinguidos delegados y miembros de la sociedad civil que nos acompañan. Tengan todas y todos ustedes muy buenas tardes. Quisiera iniciar mi intervención expresando mi reconocimiento a la Presidencia y Vicepresidencias por su destacada labor durante este periodo de sesiones. Extendemos nuestro reconocimiento al equipo de la Secretaría para el trabajo realizado en la preparación de la presente Asamblea. El Perú expresa públicamente una vez más su firme respaldo a la Corte Penal Internacional, tribunal imparcial e independiente que constituye un elemento clave en el orden internacional basado en normas. En un contexto internacional particularmente difícil, hoy más que nunca la cooperación de todos los Estados partes es indispensable a fin de defender la legitimidad e independencia de esta instancia, que lucha contra la impunidad de crímenes atroces desde hace más de 2 décadas. El Perú desea destacar la ardua labor que vienen realizando en este contexto los jueces y la Fiscalía en la lucha contra la impunidad y asegurando el acceso a la justicia para las víctimas alrededor del mundo. En particular, deseo destacar el desempeño de la magistrada peruana Luz del Carmen Ibáñez Carranza, quien cumple decididamente con sus funciones como jueza de esta Corte, pese a las medidas adoptadas en su contra. Señora Vicepresidenta, los desafíos sin precedentes que enfrenta la Corte requieren de una voluntad política sostenida, acciones concretas y cooperación significativa. En ese sentido, el Perú es consciente que para que la Corte pueda cumplir con su mandato y al mismo tiempo hacer frente a los constantes desafíos y amenazas, es importante que cuente con un adecuado financiamiento. Saludamos que la propuesta del presupuesto de la Corte para el año 2026 se haya basado en el nuevo plan estratégico que va del 2026 al 2029. La primera estrategia integral de una Corte, formulada conjuntamente por todos los órganos de la Corte y el Fondo Fiduciario en beneficio de las víctimas. Destacamos además la labor del embajador de Chile, Jorge Carvajal, facilitador para el presupuesto de la Corte en las sendas negociaciones llevadas a cabo a fin de alcanzar un presupuesto para el 2026 que permita a la Corte atender su demanda de recursos y al mismo tiempo refleje los intereses y necesidades de todos los Estados partes. Respecto a la cooperación, como todos sabemos, la Corte Penal Internacional no tiene órganos de ejecución, por lo que depende exclusivamente de la cooperación de los Estados para el cumplimiento de su mandato. Actualmente, varias órdenes de arresto siguen sin ejecutarse y las investigaciones se ven obstaculizadas por la falta de cooperación. Es nuestra responsabilidad cumplir estrictamente con las obligaciones jurídicas asumidas bajo el Estatuto de Roma, evitando la aplicación selectiva de las mismas. Por otro lado, no solo más de 2 décadas han pasado desde la Conferencia de Roma y la universalidad del Estatuto aún no es alcanzada, sino que recientemente algunos Estados partes han expresado su intención de retirarse del Estatuto de Roma. El Perú considera de particular importancia discutir la promoción de la universalidad del Estatuto, así como los desafíos que aún persisten para su ratificación o implementación. Es importante, además, abogar por la adopción de legislación que alinee el derecho interno con los estándares de justicia internacional, así como promover un mayor conocimiento del Estatuto y la Corte. Señora Vicepresidenta, el Perú está firmemente comprometido con la Corte y su mandato. Hemos aprobado y ratificado las enmiendas al Estatuto de Roma relativas al crimen de agresión, así como la enmienda al artículo 8 del citado Estatuto. Asimismo, el Perú y la Corte vienen llevando a cabo un diálogo constructivo con miras a la suscripción de un convenio de cooperación que esperamos pueda concretarse pronto. Para finalizar, quisiera indicar que para el Perú las medidas adoptadas contra las autoridades de la Corte en el ejercicio de sus mandatos son inaceptables. Por ello, a la par de destacar los esfuerzos del secretario de la Corte por garantizar la resiliencia de esta institución, reiteramos nuestro compromiso inquebrantable de apoyo a la Corte Penal Internacional y a sus funcionarios, y hacemos un llamado a todos los Estados partes para continuar defendiendo los principios y valores contenidos en el Estatuto de Roma. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your intervention. And now I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Mrs. Gaila Ali, Ambassador of the Maldives. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We gather here with a shared commitment to ensure that the gravest crimes known to humanity, genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crimes of aggression never go unnoticed and never go unpunished. These heinous acts remain among the most pressing global challenges of our time. As a state party to the Rome Statute since 2011, the Maldives reaffirms its recognition of the International Criminal Court's vital role in upholding international rule of law across jurisdictions and its complementarity to domestic criminal justice systems. The Maldives also recognizes the role of ICC in delivering justice and accountability for crimes against humanity, genocide, and war crimes. Central to this mission is ensuring that victims of these crimes are heard, their suffering acknowledged, and their rights to justice and reparations fully realized. The ICC's work must always remain grounded in the experiences and needs of those who have endured unimaginable atrocities. Further, the Maldives recognizes the vital role of the Trust Fund for Victims in providing reparations and assistance to victims and their families, and we encourage continued support for this essential mechanism. This aligns fully with the Maldives' commitment to uphold international law, respect human rights, and maintain peace and security. As a small island developing state, the Maldives understands too well the need for a multilateral system that guarantees the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states, regardless of their size and might, just as we advocate for accountability in addressing existential threats to small states, including those posed by climate change and rising seas. We recognize that international justice mechanisms are essential to ensure that no nation or people, however small or vulnerable, is left without recourse against grave injustices. In this respect, the government of Maldives reaffirms its unwavering support for the Palestinian people and calls upon the international community to act urgently and decisively to end the ongoing atrocities and to ensure full and immediate adherence to the ceasefire agreement. We hold steadfast to our assertion that a lasting peace can only be achieved through the securement of a Palestinian state based on the pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. The Maldives fully supports the International Criminal Court in its efforts to investigate alleged crimes committed against the Palestinian people. We also reiterate our commitment to uphold and defend the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute and to preserve its integrity from any political interference and pressure against the court, its officials, and those cooperating with it. We renew our resolve to stand united against impunity. The Maldives looks forward to further strengthen its relationship with ICC. I thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your intervention. And now it's a pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Therese Hayden, Head of Delegation and Director General for Legal Affairs, Sweden. You have the floor, Madam.
Madam Vice President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties. Sweden aligns itself with the statement made by Denmark on behalf of the European Union. Allow me at the outset to convey Sweden's sincere appreciation to the President of the Assembly, as well as to the Court and its officials for their steadfast dedication and resilience, even in the face of mounting pressures. I would also like to extend a special thanks to our civil society colleagues. They were instrumental in the establishment of the Court and remain indispensable as the Court faces unprecedented challenges. Threats and intimidation directed at representatives of civil society are unacceptable. Madam Vice President, since its inception, the ICC has stood as a beacon of hope for victims of the most serious crimes of international concern and as a pillar of the rules-based international order. Today, this beacon of hope is under threat. Threats, attacks, sanctions directed against officials of the Court are unacceptable. The Court, its elected officials, and those cooperating with it have faced arrest warrants, cyber attacks, and other threats, simply for carrying out the mandate that we, as state parties, entrusted them. Such actions pose an existential threat to the ICC and require our collective efforts in defending the integrity, independence, and impartiality of the Court. In this regard, we welcome this year's special theme for the general debate on measures to strengthen the Court, and we commend the Court's officials and the staff for the decisive measures already taken. Madam Vice President, despite external pressures on the Court, expectations for it to deliver justice have grown even higher. The Court is handling a record number of requests and an increased workload. Enhancing the governance of the Court is therefore of utmost importance against this backdrop. Throughout the review of the Court and the Rome Statute system, Sweden prioritized the working environment at the Court. We appreciate the progress made and welcome further efforts. Improving the work culture is crucial for the efficiency and resilience of the Court. Allegations of misconduct as against ICC officials must be thoroughly investigated and addressed in a transparent manner. Madam Vice President, states' full cooperation with the Court is essential for its ability to carry out its mandate. There are at present a record number of outstanding arrest warrants for fugitives from international justice that must be executed without delay. The Court's success depends on the timely payment of assessed contributions. We urge all state parties to pay their contributions on time and in full this year. We also call on others to join in contributing the Trust Fund for Victims. This fund is a cornerstone of the reparative justice for victims and relies on voluntary contributions to its mandate. Madam Vice President, Sweden warmly congratulates Ukraine on becoming the 125th state party of the Rome Statute this year. We hope that all states that have not yet done so will join the Rome Statute, and we deeply regret the recent withdrawals from the Rome Statute that have been announced and urge the concerned states to reconsider their decisions. Universality is a crucial aspect of ensuring accountability. While we had hoped for full harmonization, Sweden welcomes the consensus-based outcome of the special session of the review of the amendments of the crime of aggression. We look forward to engaging actively in the process leading up to 2029 with the aim of achieving harmonization. Madam Vice President, Sweden reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the International Criminal Court. The court's core purpose is clear: to ensure that the gravest crimes do not go unpunished and that justice is delivered to victims. In defending this mandate, we defend the very foundation of the rules-based international order. Thank you.
I thank you for your intervention, Madam Director General. And now I would like to invite to take the floor His Excellency Mr. Christian Venavesser, Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Liechtenstein to the United Nations. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. I wish to thank President Kaukkoranta for her strong leadership in a very difficult time. She has governed state parties with a steady hand, guided by a principled belief in the rule of law. This is the most turbulent time in the lifespan of the ICC, and we as state parties will continue to require her sense of purpose in addressing the challenges facing the court, including with respect to the ongoing investigation of alleged sexual misconduct by the chief prosecutor. As we gathered today, the ICC is under unprecedented pressure. Sanctions measures from 2 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council have been imposed on 6 judges, the entire leadership of the prosecutor's office, and 3 civil society organizations. Liechtenstein has joined various statements opposing such measures, and I express our solidarity with the senior officials of the court who have been sanctioned simply for doing the work that we have asked them to do. We all owe them gratitude for their sacrifice, but more importantly, concrete support enabling them to carry on with their lives, at least with a semblance of normalcy. We hope that this assembly session will help galvanize efforts to ensure business continuity of the court. Also, if conditions were to become even more difficult than they presently are, a scenario for which, unfortunately, we have to be prepared. We as state parties should be able to complement the admirable resilience work that the court has undertaken in the last few months to ensure the continuation of its judicial work. The ICC is no stranger to adversity. Its mandate to prosecute those with the largest responsibility for the most serious crimes under international law makes it an obvious target for those who are uncomfortable with the central message of the Rome Statute, that nobody is above the law. At this moment in history, where international law as the concept underlying the international order is under attack, protecting the mandate and mission of the court becomes ever more relevant and can resonate even with states who have not yet decided to join the Rome Statute. Effective and independent judicial institutions are indispensable for the functioning of the rule of law, nationally and internationally, and the ICC is a key building block of the international order in this respect. Madam President, upholding the independence of the court must be a key goal for us. In addition, the court does, of course, require the operational support from state parties to fulfill the high expectations we have placed in it. A key practical aspect is reliable financial support, both through the allocation of sufficient resources and the timely payment of assessed contributions. Liechtenstein is following up on the call from the registry with respect to early payments to the regular budget for 2026, and we are looking forward to paying our contribution before the end of the calendar year. We have also significantly increased our annual contribution to the Trust Fund for Victims, which now stands at 50,000 Swiss francs. In addition, practical cooperation is equally important for the court to be operational in line with the obligation we all have undertaken when ratifying the Rome Statute. The documented instances of non-cooperation are therefore worrying, and we hope that the follow-up actions taken will lead to a more positive situation when we gather next year in New York. Along similar lines, we note with concern the announced withdrawals from the Rome Statute by a number of state parties and welcome the efforts undertaken to engage in a dialogue with them. We must not be deterred in our efforts to promote universality of the Rome Statute, though, and try to make the best of the new opportunities that have been created in this respect. To this end, we also favor a proactive and dynamic dialogue between state parties and non-state parties and underline the ongoing need to explain the law reflected in the Rome Statute, in particular its key aspects of complementarity, non-retroactivity, and judicial independence. Madam President, Liechtenstein was among the many state parties who proposed and favored the harmonization of the court's jurisdiction over all 4 crimes reflected in the Rome Statute since 1998. There is simply no substantive reason for the current limitations of the jurisdictional regime that the court has over the crime of aggression. Quite the opposite. The current trends with respect to the use of force in international relations are alarming, and accountability in this respect is urgently needed. It is needed not only to protect the interests and ultimately the sovereignty of small states, but also to respect our common commitment to the international order anchored in the United Nations Charter, which has the prohibition of the illegal use of force at its core. While we believe that we should have taken the opportunity we had at the special session in July this year, we are also encouraged by the positive elements of its outcome. We welcome the strong engagement from state parties who had previously not been active participants in the discussion, the key support given by civil society organizations, and the fact that state parties showed collective resilience in holding the special session as scheduled. Most importantly, we now have agreed on a clear roadmap and a process on how to take this conversation forward. The harmonization of the court's jurisdiction will make the ICC even more relevant and hopefully contribute to achieving to the goal of universality while helping enforce the rules on the use of force laid down in the Charter of the United Nations. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Ambassador. And now I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Mrs. Sally Lo Hui, Ambassador of Panama to the Netherlands. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Excelencias, estimados delegados, en primer lugar, queremos felicitar a la Presidente, excelentísima señora Caucaranta, y sus vicepresidentes. Reconocemos su ardua labor y la conducción de los trabajos en este 24º periodo de la Asamblea. A la Presidenta de la Corte, Su Excelencia, Jueza Akane, a los fiscales adjuntos, al secretario y al personal del Tribunal, Panamá reitera su gratitud por su compromiso permanente con la justicia internacional. Señora Vicepresidenta, Panamá se dirige a esta Asamblea con plena independencia e imparcialidad como Estado parte del Estatuto de Roma. Deseamos reiterar la importancia de que la Corte Penal Internacional y su personal puedan desarrollar sus funciones con plena autonomía y sin interferencias, conforme a lo dispuesto con el propio Estatuto. Consideramos que la protección del espacio institucional de la Corte es esencial para el adecuado funcionamiento del sistema de justicia internacional. En este sentido, Panamá reafirma su compromiso, apoyo firme y constante a la Corte como el único tribunal penal internacional permanente con vocación universal. El Estatuto de Roma nos recuerda que la justicia internacional tiene un componente profundamente humano, las víctimas. La Corte ha permitido que sus voces sean escuchadas y ha contribuido a generar mecanismos de verdad, responsabilidad y reparación. Reconocemos igualmente la importante labor del Fondo Fiduciario para las Víctimas, cuyos esfuerzos han contribuido a avances significativos en materia de reparación y acompañamiento. Señora Vicepresidente, el compromiso de Panamá quedó evidenciado por la visita de Su Excelencia Javier Martínez Acha, Ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de Panamá, que como miembro no permanente del Consejo de Seguridad se reunió en febrero pasado con la Presidenta Akane, el fiscal Khan y el secretario Zavala, a fin de reafirmar nuestra disposición para colaborar en iniciativas que fortalezcan la justicia internacional, así como las oportunidades de intercambio y cooperación en materia jurídica. Para Panamá, este momento es crucial para mejorar la comprensión y el apoyo al sistema del Estatuto de Roma y para promover la complementariedad y cooperación internacional a nivel nacional y regional entre la Corte y los Estados. En este sentido, nos congratulamos por las sesiones informativas organizadas en marzo de este año a solicitud del Gobierno de Panamá, en conjunto con la Fiscalía de la Corte, la sección de víctimas y testigos, así como la sección de apoyo a la cooperación judicial, por medio de la plataforma de complementariedad voluntaria facilitada por la Asamblea de los Estados Partes en el Estatuto de Roma. La justicia habla un lenguaje universal. La unidad y el compromiso de defender la igualdad de todas las víctimas han sido la piedra angular que ha hecho al Estatuto verdaderamente resistente. Destacando en particular los artículos 7 y 8 del Estatuto en casos de violencia sexual y de género. Es fundamental reconocer el papel de la Corte dentro del sistema multilateral orientado a poner fin a la impunidad, promover el Estado de Derecho, fomentar y alentar el respeto de los derechos humanos, alcanzar una paz sostenible e impulsar el desarrollo de las naciones de conformidad con el derecho internacional y los propósitos y principios de la Carta de las Naciones Unidas. Para Panamá y desde la perspectiva regional y global, hoy enfrentamos una triple crisis: cambio climático, pérdida de biodiversidad y contaminación generalizada. Estas amenazas no conocen fronteras y exigen una rendición de cuentas urgente. La participación de la Fiscalía de la Corte con la nueva política para abordar los daños ambientales mediante el Estatuto de Roma será de gran utilidad, porque permite que, cuando los daños ambientales sean graves, masivos y sistemáticos, los responsables no queden protegidos por la impunidad. Señora Vicepresidente, subrayamos que la Corte, sus funcionarios y su personal deben poder desempeñar su mandato sin intimidación y condenamos cualquier amenaza, ataque o injerencia contra la Corte, su personal y quienes cooperen con ella. Destacamos la importancia de la cooperación internacional para las investigaciones, las detenciones y la ejecución de órdenes judiciales, así como la necesidad de la independencia como garantía para asegurar que los crímenes sean juzgados en virtud del Estatuto de Roma. Para finalizar, el Gobierno de Panamá acompaña al pueblo venezolano en su búsqueda de justicia y vislumbramos un arduo trabajo por parte de la Corte, por lo que es justo pedir celeridad. En conclusión, Panamá reafirma su compromiso inquebrantable con la Corte, con la defensa de la independencia judicial y con la protección de los derechos de las víctimas. Trabajaremos junto a todos los Estados partes para que la Corte siga cumpliendo su noble misión y para que la justicia sea verdaderamente un bien universal. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Excellency. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Andriy Kostin, the Ambassador of Ukraine to the Netherlands. It's a pleasure to have you here as a representative of the State Party. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, dear Madam Vice President of the Assembly of State Parties, distinguished Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to address this Assembly on behalf of Ukraine. For my country, this is not just another diplomatic meeting. For us, the International Criminal Court is not an abstraction. It is a concrete hope that the most serious crimes committed on the territory of Ukraine will not disappear into silence, that even in the darkest moments, law still speaks louder than violence. Ukraine has long seen itself as a part of the Rome Statute community in spirit. We have twice accepted the court's jurisdiction under Article 12.3. We have aligned our legislation, cooperated fully with the Office of the Prosecutor, and placed our trust in this institution. Our clear political will has been completed by taking our rightful place within the Rome Statute family as a state party. We are deeply grateful to all states that have supported the court's engagement with the situation in Ukraine, including through referrals and public expressions of support, through financial and technical assistance, and through the difficult political work of defending the court when it comes under pressure. This solidarity is not only support for Ukraine, it is the support for the core idea that no state and no individual is above the law. Allow me to share how the court is viewed today in Ukrainian society. For many of our people, the court has become a symbol that the international community sees their suffering and that this suffering has legal meaning. When investigators arrive in destroyed towns and villages, when victims are interviewed according to strict standards of evidence, when they see that their story becomes part of an official record, this sends a powerful message. What happened to them is not collateral damage. It is potentially a crime, and someone may one day answer for it. This perception of the court as an ally in our fight for justice is invaluable. It strengthens trust in international law at a time when that trust is under severe stress. It reassures victims that there is a path, however long, from atrocity to accountability. We therefore wish to express our sincere thanks to the court, to the Office of Prosecutor, to the Registry and Trust Fund for Victims for their work on the situation in Ukraine and for the spirit of genuine partnership that we experience in our daily cooperation. We are grateful for the many practical instances of support, from coordination to investigative work, to assistance with evidence preservation and witness protection, to strategic advice that helps us strengthen our own national capacities. This cooperation also extends to broader accountability efforts, including work related to the establishment of the Special Tribunal for the Crime of Aggression against Ukraine. For Ukraine, the crime of aggression is not an abstract legal category. It is the original crime, the gateway through which the other atrocities have become possible. The proposed special tribunal is designed to fill a specific accountability gap in the current international legal architecture. It is not intended to compete with the court, but to complement it. The ICC, bound by its statute, faces clear jurisdictional limitations with regard to the crime of aggression in situations involving non-state parties. A dedicated tribunal focused narrowly on this crime with strong international participation and grounded in existing international law would help to ensure that those who planned and launched an illegal war are not shielded by legal technicalities. In our view, a future special tribunal and the ICC can and should be seen as parts of a wider system, each with its own mandate and strengths, but united by the same purpose, to delegitimize aggression and to end impunity for the gravest crime of concern to the international community as a whole. We're committed to designing any such mechanism in a way that respects and reinforces the central role of this court. Excellencies, Ukraine today is defending not only its territory and its people. We're also defending the international legal system that all of us in this room have built over decades. The prohibition of the use of force, the protection of civilians, the basic rules of warfare, and the idea that serious violations of these rules are crimes, not just political issues. If impunity prevails in Ukraine, it will not stay in Ukraine. Other potential aggressors will draw their own conclusions. That is why our struggle for justice is inseparable from the struggle to uphold the Rome Statute system and the broader rule-based order. We therefore reaffirm our strong support for the court, for its independence, for its impartiality, for its ability to investigate and prosecute without fear or favor, wherever the statute allows it to act. We will continue to cooperate with the court in good faith, to facilitate its work on our territory, to support efforts to strengthen national capacity to prosecute Rome Statute crimes, and to advocate, both at home and abroad, for full respect of the court's mandate. Ukraine's path toward full membership in the Rome Statute family is, for us, a strategic choice. It is a choice to anchor ourselves firmly in a system where power is constrained by law. It is a choice that reflects the wishes of our people who have paid an immeasurably high price and who expect that justice will not be selective or symbolic but real. In closing, I wish to thank the Assembly, the Court and all states that continue to stand with Ukraine not only in our defense but in our pursuit of accountability. We are determined to continue this work together so that future generations can look back and say, at a moment of great danger, the international community chose the path of law, not the law of the strongest. Thank you.
I thank you very much for your intervention, Ambassador. Chez le délégué, je pense qu'on est vers la fin de notre séance de ce matin. Je remercie l'ensemble des orateurs pour leurs déclarations faites ce matin, ainsi que pour le soutien exprimé à la Cour et à la présidence de l'Assemblée des États parties. Nous reprendrons la séance cet après-midi pour poursuivre l'examen de ce point de l'ordre du jour. Je voudrais aussi remercier à nos interprètes. Et s'il n'y a pas de demande de parole, je ne vois pas, la séance est levée.